September the 12th. Please be seated. Today's proceedings will be live streamed and recorded. Please note that there is no fire drill or fire alarm test planned. In the event of the fire alarm sounding, please leave by the nearest fire exit and make your way to the car park at the front of county offices. Members should be mindful that the high-performing loop system is sensitive to any type of noise in the chamber. Ambient sound from the chamber immediately prior to meetings and during open sessions may be picked up by the loop, and therefore councillors should conduct private conversations outside of the chamber. The loop will be muted at the close of the meeting. If a member would like to speak, they should raise their hand so it can be clearly seen. Requests to speak will be monitored by Democratic Services and managed by the Chairman with the assistance of the Chief Executive. When I invite you to speak, you should press the button on your microphone unit to make it live. Please speak directly into the microphone and press the button again to switch it off once you have finished speaking. Now move on to the proceedings. Apologies of absence. Can I ask the Chief Executive, Debbie Barnes, to report any apologies of absence, please?
Thank you very much. We've received apologies from Councillor Baxter, Councillor Catton, Councillor Chapman, Councillor Cheyne, Councillor King and Councillor Wright. Thank you very much.
Are there any further apologies? In which case, we'll move on to item 2, declarations of councillors' interests. Do councillors have any further interests that you would like to declare? If I can remind you that if during the debate you have any interests, please let us know. Item 3, minutes of the meeting of the Council held on the 23rd May 2025. These have been circulated and you've all had an opportunity to read them. Is everybody happy with the way they are? So in the absence of any dissent, we'll move on to the next item. Chairman's announcements. Since the last meeting of the Council, and during my first months as Chairman of Lincolnshire County Council, I've been carrying out civic engagements around the county, and I would like to take this opportunity to thank my Vice Chairman, Councillor Mike Beecham, for his support during this time. Amongst the highlights, we've had the Greater Lincolnshire Show stand at the Lincolnshire Show, which marked its 140th anniversary. As always, the show was a huge success and received thousands of visitors over the 2 days, many of which came to our stand. During the 2 days, I was honoured to present the Lincolnshire Good Citizen Awards and meet the recipients. These amazing people volunteer much of their time to provide invaluable support to their communities, yet expect no tribute or reward for their efforts. The winner of the Young Person Award was unable to get to the show, so the Vice Chairman and I visited him at Boston at an event where he was volunteering to present his award. I've asked Reverend David Cotton to act as my chaplain for my term of office. Unfortunately, he was unable to attend today's meeting, but will be in attendance going forward. David has been a long-term parish council and district councillor for over 23 years and has served as chaplain to the chairman of West Lindsey District Council for several years. On a sadder note, I report the death of former Chief Executive of the County Council, Mr. Dudley Proctor, who served from August 1983 to April 1995. Also, former Chairman, Leader and Deputy Leader of the Council, Dennis Hoyes, MBE, passed away on the 17th of August, aged 95 years. Former member for the Woodley Spa and Rugby Electoral Division, Mr. Hoy served 2 separate terms as chairman, 1989 to 91 and 1997 to 1998. On his retirement, he received an award for 40 years dedicated service. Another former chairman of the County Council, Bill Aaron, also passed away on 31st of August. Mr. Aaron served a total of 16 years as a county council in the Horncastle area and was chairman of the County Council in 2014 to 15. Bill Aaron was also Executive Sport Council for Culture and Emergent Services from May 2015 until December 2017. Details of his funeral have recently been circulated to members. Of course, you will also be aware of the passing of the Duchess of Kent on the 4th of September last week. Would you please join me in paying tribute by standing and observing a minute's silence? Thank you. I would like to now ask any members if they would like to say a few words about our former colleagues. Councillor Davis.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I had the great fortune to know, I'll talk about Dennis first. Dennis was a real character on the council. Probably most people here won't remember him. But when I joined Lincolnshire County Council as a, dare I say, considerably less grey-haired individual and sat on the back benches, he was what you might call a classic conservative Tory farmer. Quietly spoken, fierce. When he did speak, you know he was serious, incredibly loyal, but not somebody open to the nuance of debate at times, very strong-willed and a real character. Actually very different to Bill, who I knew a little bit better. I worked with Bill on a number of issues when I was looking after roads, particularly around Horncastle. I mean, you do a ward walk with Bill and it would take you a long time because everybody knew him. And you get called in, much softer spoken gentleman, a real character, fiercely proud of where he came from, an ex-retailer in the town, had done an awful lot to help the community over the years, very much under the radar very often, but again, he was an excellent chairman when he was here, very good at bringing us back together. They were both very different characters, but lovely gentlemen, and I have to say, it's quite sobering when you stand here and you start to remember people you've served with on these very benches who aren't here anymore, but we are sadder for their loss, and may they rest in peace.
Thank you. Councillor Lee.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I personally didn't know the councillors that you've referred to, but I do know that my friend and colleague, the late Councillor Rob Parker, would have very much wanted me to pass on the condolences of the Labour group, so I'll do that with respect. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Overton, MBE.
Thank you very much. I'd just like to say a few words about Councillor Bill Aaron, who was an independent for the majority of the time he was here, though not entirely. And he was dedicated to his community and very much part of his community in running local business right in the heart of his town. And I think the thing that really struck me is that he was desperate to support his residents, but he did suffer civility issues, if you like, when he changed party name. And that, I think, is something that is quite salutary, particularly nationally and internationally now, where we have some problems of politically where people are trying to enter difficult discussions and then suffering as a consequence. And yet, what's so important is that we do have sound, thoughtful debate. So, condolences to his family. I know he'll be much missed, and his community. And thank you for raising it. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Hill, OBE.
Thank you. I won't add too much to what Councillor Davies just said. Just to add that I think he very, very eloquently summed up the two former chairmen. Just to say, I did represent the council at Dennis's funeral at Woodhall Spa. The new thing I did learn, he actually wrote poetry, which quite surprised me because he was quite grumpy. I don't know, grumpy at times, and I think we respected each other, but I don't think we saw eye to eye too much of the time. I'd just like to say a few words about Dudley Proctor. So I suspect I'm the only person here who ever knew Dudley. He was chief executive just as I came on the council. Just to say, he was chief executive in the early years of this council, and he really set the council up to be the success it's been ever since. And he was very, very well respected by members at the time. A very quiet, very thoughtful individual, carried a lot of presence. So I think it would be only right that we should acknowledge the really good work that gentleman did for this council.
Thank you very much. Councillor Gibson.
Thank you, Chairman. I wasn't here when these gentlemen were here, or people that passed away were here, so I don't know them be able to comment enough. I think from our side, we wish their family and friends well and in their time. Just the last point on your statement, Chairman, I don't think it does you justice. The details of civic engagements can be found. My social media seems to be full of yourself and your Vice Chairman out working hard for Lincolnshire. I'd just like to say at this point, thank you very much for the work you're doing at the moment, and thank you for putting Lincolnshire on the map.
Well, thank you very much. I was just going to say, actually, if there's no more tributes, that any details of the civic engagements that we've attended since the last meeting, these can be obtained from the civic officer. I'd like to now move on to item 5, statements and announcements by the leader and members of the executive. These statements were set out on pages 13 to 38 of the agenda pack. Do any members of the executive have anything extra that they would like to add? Councillor Oliver.
Thank you, Chair. So on the 30th of July 2025, I wrote to the Secretary of State for Education, Bridget Phillipson, outlining the importance of the HAF programme for so many of our children and families here in Lincolnshire, and how the need to continue, it is imperative. Well, I'm pleased to say that our concerns have been heard, and I'm therefore delighted to share the news that the government has confirmed that the funding for the holiday activities and food programme will continue for the next 3 financial years. This means children and families across Lincolnshire will continue to benefit from access to healthy meals, enriching activities and vital support during school holidays. Having visited one of our incredible provisions over at Doddington Hall, it is overwhelming just how important the HAF programme is for so many of our families and our children. It not only helps children stay active, engaged and well nourished, but also supports parents during what can be a very challenging time. The continuation of funding will allow us to build on the strong work already happening and to ensure that even more children can take part. I want to thank all of our schools, our community organisations and providers who deliver such high quality programmes. Their commitment makes a real difference to the lives of children and young people in our communities. This announcement gives us the certainty that we need to plan ahead, and I look forward to seeing HAF continue and thrive in the years to come. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Oliver. I know we don't normally have contributions from others here, but I think Councillor Lee would like to speak.
Thanks. I'm really pleased to hear that, Councillor Oliver. I've long lobbied for extra money for HAF in alternative budgets. I've asked for the authority to put in extra money, but I'm really pleased to see that a Labour government is supporting this. Thank you.
Well, thank you. I think likewise we were all very pleased to see that the HAF is continuing, because it's a very, very important sum of money which is used by many, many of our families. Thank you for that. Now we move on to item 6, questions to the chairman, the leader, executive councillors, chairman of committees and subcommittees. As usual, I'm anxious to allow a good spread of questions across the chamber within the time allocated. We actually have 28 questions listed, which is quite a lot and possibly more than I've ever known in this chamber before. So hopefully we will be able to get through most, if not all of them, in the 45 minutes allowed. However, I therefore need councillors to be disciplined because of that time. When invited to ask the questions, councillors should press the button on their microphone to make it live and press it again once they have finished speaking. So if we could first of all ask Councillor James Bean to Councillor Sean Matthew.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Councillor Matthews, can you confirm that you intend to contact Natural England regarding the requirement to spend £4.3 million to build Bat Tunnel and Bat Bridges as part of the North Hycombe Relief Road? Will Natural England provide the funding for the Bat Tunnel and bridges? And will this process delay the start of the Relief Road project?
Thank you for the question, Councillor Bean. Just a minor issue, but there's an S missing off my name.
Oh, sorry.
It's fine. It's Matthews. So the question about bats and the North Hycombe Relief Road. I have asked the MP for Boston and Skegness to speak to Natural England and to raise it in Parliament. I have had, and he has done so, I've had a response from Natural England. Suffices to say that it's an ongoing discussion. But I will draw you to some details of the planning committee that was set up for the North Hycombe Relief Road. And this was formed in the autumn of 2022 to 23, where they started looking at bat surveys. And in October 23, planning application was submitted with the proposed bat mitigation in there. And in November 23, again, the bat surveys came up in this executive board, and a discussion was had about the bat hop over near the A46, a South Hycombe bat bridge, and a bat culvert in Somerton Gate. Then in January 2024, the mitigation proposals were put in to the executive board, and they seeked approval in February 24. All this means that we were all very aware of the bat mitigation that was being proposed for the North Hycombe Relief Road. So it does surprise me that Councillor Davies is standing on the television programme saying how ridiculous an idea paying £4.2 million for the bat mitigation there is. In summary, what I will say is I am fighting very, very hard not to pay this money for something that I consider to be unnecessary. I'm not even sure the bats have been there. I'm not even sure they've ever been seen this far north. And £4.2 million is an extraordinary amount of money to pay to mitigate something that may not exist. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Matthews. The second question will be Councillor Mrs Sue Woolley to Councillor Danny Brooks.
Thank you, Chairman. Councillor Brooks, Bourne Household Waste Recycling Centre was opened on its present site around 10 years ago and was built to serve Bourne, the Deepings and Stamford. It's a very well-used site, but has come under increasing pressure from a very busy flow of traffic, exacerbated recently by the local Peterborough Household Waste Recycling Centre now only allowing residents of the Peterborough area to use their site. As you know, down in the south of the county, the Deepings, some areas of the Deepings and indeed Stamford are closer to Peterborough than they are to Bourne. I'm sure Councillor Redfern will have already told you that, as the member for Bourne South, how busy the site is, and that you'll know that he and I recently conducted our own mini survey with some questions set up by officers to enable residents to actually have their say about the Bourne site. The staff was spoken about highly. The cleanliness of the site was also remarked upon, but what residents found most frustrating was the present setup and how long it takes to get into the site and out of the site. Can I ask you if you will commit to working with officers to look at ways to speed up the flow of traffic through the Bourne site, and also to look at drawing up a business case for a new household waste recycling site to be jointly served for the Deepings and the Stamford area? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Woolley, for your question. I can confirm that at the moment we are, with the team, looking at all household waste recycling centres, how we can make them more efficient and make it easier for access via vehicles, because we are getting a lot of complaints of queuing, and I think that is one of the, I think your survey will have found that the queuing of the vehicles is probably one of the biggest gripes. We are looking at them. I'm not sure that we're looking at a new waste site in the Bourne area, but we are looking at how we can make them more efficient and more easily accessible. That's an ongoing report, and there will be a public consultation going out shortly to find out what we can do to make them better, a better experience. Thank you.
Thank you. Can I just remind people that we have got a lot of questions, so if you could be as brief as possible, it would be helpful. A third question will be from Councillor Martin Christopher to Councillor Rob Gibson.
Thank you, Chair. Dropping my stuff everywhere here. It was National Suicide Awareness Day on Wednesday, the 10th of September, and over the last few weeks I've met with a few third sector organisations that are involved in suicide prevention and wellbeing projects around the county. What I'm hearing from them is that there was a problem with the ICB cutting funding earlier this year, and I have a letter here as well, from an open letter here that went to all leaders and all key stakeholders from the Lincolnshire Voluntary Engagement Team, who I believe represent 170 organisations that are involved in wellbeing and other elements. There is a part of this here that says that our members are having to make redundancies, freeze recruitment, offer their staff below inflation pay rises, and a number face closure. What the third sector organisations that have reached out and shared with me over the last few weeks is that there was a time period where there was 3 to 4 months where they did not have the money coming in, and for them they were having to dip into their reserve funds. There were question marks about whether they could continue. There's been a lot of problems as a result of that ICB decision to essentially eradicate quite a lot of the funding. Noting that the most recent Community Safety Committee, that we're now second when it comes to suicide deaths in the county here, that's a worry, because I think we need to be supporting those organisations and making sure we're looking into that. And I would like to ask you, Councillor Gibson, if yourself and the relevant portfolio holder would be willing to meet with me and some of these organisations so that we can get to the bottom of this and try and understand what's going on and where we can help them and support them better, because it's absolutely vital that we get on top of that issue if it is there. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the question. Yes, it's an important subject. Obviously, it's been made more important recently by the farm inheritance tax, which has added to this problem as well, which is not good for Lincolnshire. I'm sure Councillor Clegg, I was going to reply and say Councillor Clegg and I would absolutely love to join you, but the leader's just written me a note say he will join you with Councillor Clegg. So between us, yes, absolutely.
Thank you. So we can move on. The next question will be from Councillor Stuart Grantham to Councillor Sean Matthews.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The National Policy Framework for Home to School Transport is based on an Act which has not been reviewed for 30 years, and the last time Lincolnshire discretionary elements were reviewed formally were back in 2005. Yes, that is 20 years ago. This is nothing shy of total incompetence from successive Conservative government and from previous Conservative administration here in Lincolnshire, who also failed by local reviews that should have been taken place. Can Councillor Matthews confirm that Reform UK administration pushed for urgent local review that is long overdue while ensuring Lincolnshire delivers proper value for money for our taxpayers?
Thank you, Councillor Grantham. I'll take this opportunity to wish all the best for Councillor Cheen, who's just had a hip operation, which is why he's not here. It's a reasonably good excuse. Others are not quite so reasonable. I am going to pass this over to Councillor Wimhurst because he's got the answers for you.
Thank you, Chairman, and thank you, Councillor Grantham and Councillor Leader Matthews. In response to the question, the Lincolnshire School and College Transport Policy is updated yearly to reflect the correct dates and check for any amendments needed to ensure compliance. The last small revision to this was in 2020, and the last major revision was in 2004, which, 21 years ago, I think we can all agree was a very long time since we had a last review of the discretionary elements. We are on discussion with Councillor Sheen and the transport team. We are going to be reviewing this and then reviewing it periodically, seeing what changes and implementations we can make in order to ensure a great service for the people of Lincolnshire whilst achieving value for money for the residents. Thank you.
Thank you. As we've heard, Councillor Cheen is prevented from attending today, so this next question, which from Councillor Tom Dyer to Councillor Cheen, will be taken by Councillor Sean Matthews.
Thank you very much, Chairman, and can I be first to send the Conservative group's best wishes to Councillor Sheed, and I look forward to seeing him in his place in due course. Chairman, as has already been mentioned, bats are absolutely, understandably, they're sparking a discussion in this chamber. And it's absolutely right that the administration is doing its digging, asking questions. I can certainly assure the leader that when I found out about this, I was asking the very same questions to council officials. I think it's a nuanced argument, as the leader is well aware, and that these are costing a significant amount of money. What I would just stress before I get on to my question is this just isn't a Reform UK issue, Councillor Matthews. So well done for going to a Member of Parliament, but I know Caroline Johnson and Hamish Faulkner would definitely, I'm sure, like to engage with the council on this matter as well. So please be cross-party in any discussions that you're having. But assuming that the officer team's comments are accurate, Chairman, the council must either pay the circa £4.5 million cost for bat mitigation measures, or essentially risk the North Hycombe Relief Road being scrapped. Does the council commit, above all else, to delivering the North Hycombe Relief Road as scheduled, that specific timeline that has been outlined? And I will just add for context, Chairman, any delay is estimated to add between £300,000 and £500,000 to the scheme's cost per month. So by attempting to amend the current plans or playing political games, the administration risks adding millions to the overall costs of the scheme, which will vastly go above the £4.5 million cost for the bat mitigation, but there is also no guarantee of success. So, Chairman, I hope that the leader can confirm to the council today the North Hycombe Relief Road will move forward on the timeline that is scheduled and publicly available. Thank you.
Councillor Dyer, you always give me the opportunity to just answer by saying yes. But what I'll do is I'll fill that up a little bit more. I completely, look, there are times we are going to disagree with things in this chamber, and that's right and proper. We don't on this. There will be no delay. I am looking at ways to get on with it, start digging in February, I believe it is, something like that. February, March maybe, depending on the weather. We will not delay it, and at the end of the day, it will really annoy me, but if we have to pay for this bat mitigation to save millions of pounds in delay and dither, then of course I will have to do that. But it will be dragged along whilst doing it. I genuinely think there is a way for us to get out of this, but it will not be at the delay or the risk of the North Hycombe Relief Road.
Thank you. If we could move on to Councillor Matthew Bowles to Councillor Natalie Oliver, please.
Thank you, Chairman. Morning, Councillor Oliver. Last night, I had the privilege of attending the presentation evening at Queen Elizabeth's High School in Gainsborough. This was a real celebration of the success and achievement of the staff and students. The school achieved record-breaking GCSE and A-level results this summer, placing it in the top 10% of schools in the UK, which is an amazing achievement. I'd also like to give a special mention to Gainsborough student Ebony Aitchinson, who scooped 4 awards last night and is now off to Trinity College, Cambridge, to read history, which is a real success story for her, her family and for the town. Unfortunately, on the other side of the coin, we have the Gainsborough Academy, which remains Ofsted rated, requires improvement, and has done so, or worse, for the last 10 to 15 years, resulting in hundreds of students leaving the town and county for their education each day. This is a significant cost to parents and to the Gainsborough economy moving forward. I've raised this issue with your predecessor many times, but we're still in the same position. The staff are working incredibly hard to bring around change at the school, but have expressed serious frustrations to me with some of the services and support accessed via LCC. Would you be willing to meet with me to discuss the issues and what support LCC can give the school to ensure all Gainsborough residents can access high quality education on their doorstep? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bowles, for your question. Absolutely, I would be more than happy to meet with you to discuss that with the school and their concerns going forward. I would just also like to associate myself with you in sending congratulations to Queen Elizabeth and the students that you mentioned, and I will be writing to them personally to congratulate them as well. So thank you, and I look forward to meeting. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. If I could move on to Councillor Richard Cleaver, to Councillor Danny Brooks, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Stamford is the largest town in the county with no household waste recycling centre. The residents are forced to travel some distance to use the already busy facility in the smaller town of Bourne. A weekly weekend collection service to mitigate this was most unhelpfully removed by the previous administration. Bearing in mind the considerable planned housing growth in Bourne, Stamford and the Deepings over the next 5 years, and the already overstretched capacity in Bourne, will he commit to providing an HWRC on a suitable site close to Stamford and the Deepings within the lifetime of this administration? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cleaver, for your question. As I previously said to Councillor Woolley, there is no plans for new household waste recycling centres due to finances, obviously, but there is going to be revamping of them all. Can I just say that there is no residents that are further than 12 miles from a household recycling centre, and if we can get them right so that they work more efficiently, then I think we can deal with any kind of excess housing that comes along. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Moving on to Councillor Kev Clark with a question to Councillor Sean Matthews.
Thank you, Chair. Morning, Councillor Matthews. Following the approval of the 500,000 plus flood scheme for Kirkby-le Fall, the question is, when can I inform residents of St Catherine's, Mayfair Avenue, Westbrook, Bargate, Bootham Avenue, Newark Road, etc., the list goes on, that work will be undertaken to eliminate their threat of future flooding? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Clark. Everything's on the list and they will be informed as and when we get to them and their repairs.
Thank you. Councillor Bailey Robinson with a question to Councillor Sean Matthews.
Thank you, Chairman. First, I wanted to thank the Executive for their swift decision in June to withdraw from the nuclear waste agreement. I still wonder if an official apology from the Leader of the Opposition to my residents is coming after they deliberately misled them to think we had U-turned on the decision during the formal democratic process. And you wonder why trust in the Conservative Party is dead. Moving on from this, many of my residents are concerned at the lack of police presence in our villages when crimes are being committed. Given that Lincolnshire Police has been forced to pause recruitment and is planning to reduce officer numbers due to a staggering 14 million budget gap, what action will this administration take to secure the equitable funding from central government that our police force desperately needs? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Robinson. With regard to policing, it's very difficult for the council to get heavily involved. We can influence and we can lobby, and I was down in Westminster 2 weeks ago now with a meeting with most of the MPs from Lincolnshire. I think Sir Edward Lee's car broke down somewhere in France, so he didn't make it. But the rest of us were there. And it was a very constructive and useful meeting to be held with the policing minister. I am very supportive of the police. Having been a police officer myself, it is astounding to me that whilst I sat in there in that meeting in Westminster, there were probably more police officers on duty in 3 square miles of London than we have in the entirety of Lincolnshire. It is ridiculous that we were below 1,200 police officers, split that up into 4 shifts, allowing for some of them to have a bit of time off, and they are clearly run ragged. And my heart goes out to them, because once upon a time, a very long time ago, I was in their boots, and I cannot imagine being so short-staffed as they are here. So in answer to your question, I will continue to lobby and work alongside the PCC to try and get better funding for Lincolnshire Police.
Thank you. Whilst I understand the nature of political banter and political conversation between parties, can I please remind you that we are short on time and that we should be sticking to the question there rather than getting at each other party. Thank you very much. The next question will be to Councillor Sean Matthews. Is Councillor Michael Chains prevented? Was from Councillor Mrs. Jackie Brockway.
Thank you, Chairman. First of all, I would like to thank Councillor Winhurst for his swift engagement with me when I've raised highways issues with him. I'm going to read you part of a response received by a Netlham resident when they reported heavily silted drains in a flood risk area. It says, whilst the County Council recognises your concerns about the block gullies, it does not consider the issue to be a high priority and is not planning any further action. That's a very worrying response. Will you give your assurance to this resident and to others in Saxelby whose houses have been flooded as a direct result of blocked gullies that you will take this matter seriously and ensure that action is in fact taken when blocked gullies are reported in flood risk areas? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor, for your question. I am going to pass it over to Councillor Wimhurst again.
Thank you very much, Council Leader, and thank you, Councillor Brockway, for your question. Yes, as you're aware, we did receive a response from the Highways team regarding this. I also feel it's quite unsatisfactory. What I would like to suggest is that we maybe arrange a visit to the areas with a member of the Highways team, myself and yourself and a member of the Highways team, to actually assess the situation and see what could potentially be done to resolve it in a swifter time as possible. Because obviously, you know, we do care about flooding, and we really do care about making sure that the residents of Lincolnshire are safe and secure. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Wimhurst. If I could move on to Councillor Phil Dilks to a question again to Councillor Sean Matthews.
Good morning all. Good morning, Councillor Matthews. May I associate myself with the remarks you said about support for police funding in Lincolnshire? I'm sure we would all support those remarks. And it is a matter about the police. The minutes we all voted for earlier confirm that in May I was proud to be elected as one of 4 members of this council to serve on the Lincolnshire Police and Crime panel. However, when I attended the first meeting, it became clear that there were only 3 places for county councillors and that I was apparently not one of them. It was suggested that the way around it was to co-opt me for the rest of the current financial year, but that would be subject to approval by the Secretary of State, and that until such time as he or she made a decision, I would not be a member of the panel, but may be able to attend and contribute at the discretion of the chairman. Given that the legal requirement for political balance across elected members from district and county council on police and crime panels has clearly not been met and is a matter for this council to resolve, and given that across the 7 districts and the county council together, there are more councillors elected as independents than almost any of the political parties, can you please say now why the independents have been so unfairly and frankly unlawfully discriminated against in this way, and say what steps you will now take to rectify this unfortunate situation? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Dilks. Look, I understand you're aggrieved by it, and perhaps I would be if I was in your position. The reality is that you are an independent. I believe that the co-opted members on the panel have exactly the same rights as everybody else. I'm happy to sit with you. I'm happy to sit with you and officers and to go through it once again and try and explain to you the situation we find ourselves in. But it is politically proportionally balanced, and it is not just this council that it has to take account of. So happy to sit down with you and the officers to go through it and let you aggrieve to them a little bit more. Thank you.
Thank you. Obviously, something to be taken outside the chamber. Hopefully the debate will resolve the problem. Item number 12 will be Councillor Karen Lee to Councillor Danny Brooks.
Thanks. It's another one of those recycling centre questions. I didn't realise there'd be 3. You've inherited a failing service from the previous administration, and I've been raising it in this chamber for 2 years now. There hasn't been a user satisfaction survey carried out for a number of years, nor any consultation with local businesses at Great Northern Terrace, all of which negatively are affected by this site. There's a number of concerns, and I think there could be quick wins for this administration to sort them out. The centre's got restricted operating times, Friday to Tuesday 8 till 4. That means you get really busy times like Friday mornings and weekends. The traffic going down to Great Northern Terrace, I don't know if you know the area, it's horrendous. It piles back and you get lorries overtaken on the wrong side and all sorts. On the site itself, it's something else. There's absolutely no traffic management. People just dump the cars randomly and just walk across the site and put rubbish in. And when you try and get out, you can't get out because somebody's blocked you in. It's really awful. The centralised location draws traffic into the city centre, which adds to congestion and pollution. It needs modernisation with more emphasis on sustainable recycling. And all of this is a really big disincentive for people who they want to dispose of the waste in a sustainable way. Anyway, Councillor Brooks, my question is, will you visit the site with me to see for yourself? I want a bit more than what other people have asked for. I'd like you to come with me. The previous Danny came with me, and I'd like you to come with me on a Friday morning at 9 o'clock so we can have a look and you can see for yourself just how bad it is. Thank you.
Thank you for your question, Councillor Lee. As I've said, that we are going to be having the satisfaction survey. That consultation will be going out very shortly, and I would be happy to come down and see your site with you on a Friday morning. I know that all sites are extremely busy, and particularly your site, and that is what we are looking to do now in the consultation, and also we are looking at revamping all sites to make them more efficient, easier accessible for the residents, and obviously to recycle more, which is to the benefit of us all. Thank you. And traffic management is one of them, yeah.
Thank you. If we could move on to Councillor Ken Bamford with a question for Councillor Liam Kelly.
Thank you, Chair. As I understand it, over £700 million of council supplier expenditure is allocated to small to medium-sized enterprises, of which over 40% of contract awards go to companies registered outside of Lincolnshire. My question is, why are we not utilising a much higher number of Lincolnshire-based providers for our goods and services, thus ensuring that money stays within the Lincolnshire economy?
Thank you for your question, Councillor Bamford.
On review of the data, 700 million with 40% of SME contracts being awarded to companies and supply chains outside of Lincolnshire does ill service to the people of Lincolnshire, to the jobs and to the revenue that should remain inside Lincolnshire. Some of the causal factors to that are, I believe, management commitment. It is incumbent upon management and political leadership to look at the systems in place in order to drive efficiency and in order to drive value for money in all areas of their responsibilities to ensure that Lincolnshire, its people and jobs benefit the most. So we will be taking a management commitment approach to that, and we will be ensuring that our systems in place are optimised to the benefit of the people and companies and SMEs of Lincolnshire. That is the approach going forward. Thank you, Councillor Bamford. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you very much. If we could move on to Councillor Lindsay Corey, a question to Councillor Alex McGonigal.
Thank you, Chairman. My question is actually about firefighter pensions. But first I must address, Councillor McGonigal, the concerning lack of a written statement from yourself on Lincolnshire Fire and Rescue, emergency planning and business continuity. Chairman, does he have nothing to say about the County Council's preparedness, along with our multi-agency partners through the Lincolnshire Resilience Forum for the coming winter, specifically, Chairman, about flooding and our support for communities undertaking community emergency plans, about Lincolnshire Fire and Rescue's readiness for this autumn's visit of HMIC FRS. Chairman, is there nothing to say about Have a Go days to support firefighter recruitment, the results of self-catering fire safety awareness campaign? Is there nothing to say about the progress of the Control Project, Waddington Training Centre or Leverton Fire Station? Nothing, Chairman, nothing at all. It begs the question, what has he been doing for the past 5 months? So now I come to my substantive question, Chairman. I would like Councillor McGonigal to confirm whether he is going to support our firefighters in ensuring that their pensions and pay are not going to be included in Richard Tice's self-styled war on public service pensions, or is he simply going to roll over and do whatever Richard Tice tells him to? Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you.
Thank you for your question, Councillor Corey. And just to address your previous statement with regards to not having anything within the agenda on regards to the statement for the Fire and Rescue Service, a lot of what you've just asked about you will find in the Statement of Assurance, which was written by myself and Mark. Sorry? Okay. And some of the other points that you raised with regards to Have a Go days, I regularly attend the Have a Go days within stations, ensure that if you'd like to have a further conversation about it, you know, outside of the chamber, I'm more than happy to inform you with
Can
the
I
things
just
that I've been doing.
say that I've just heard from the Chief Executive that a statement was prepared, but it might not have been distributed, so that could be an admin error, and that will be looked into as soon as this meeting is over. Councillor Corey.
Thank you. Well, I will accept that.
Thank you very much. If you could go to the substantive question, please.
Yes, of course. And with regards to your questions relating to the pensions for the fire service members, it's absolutely something that I will fight for them for. I will fight tooth and nail to ensure that they get what they deserve off the back of that, and I'll provide you with a further response in writing. Thank you, Councillor Corey. Thank you, Chair.
I'm sure the statement will be distributed to all members as soon as practical. Thank you very much. Thank you for that. We now move on to item 15, Councillor Mrs Marion Overton, MBE, to Councillor Danny Brooks.
Thank you very much indeed. My question is about whether the portfolio holder will work with me and residents to tackle central government on the issue of solar being on good farmland in Lincolnshire. We currently, in my area alone, have close on 10,000 acres of solar proposed, and the battery units, which could have been anywhere, there's no need for them to be close to the solar. We've got 324 shipping containers close to the village of Navenby. And then close to the village of Colby, 1,324 shipping containers full of lithium batteries close to the village. I cannot understand how the government can think this is in any way sensible, especially when, of course, the profit goes to the very large global companies and the benefit does not come to the local communities. So I just ask for support on this issue, particularly in tackling central government and the ministers. How can we do that? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Overton, for your question. And absolutely, we'll stand with anybody who is against solar wind farms on our farmland, and particularly the battery sites. I believe there's not enough data on those to see how safe they are, knowing that the fire service have to just let them burn. And I think that's a ridiculous situation to be in. How we go about stopping the government from doing what they're doing, which is they're trying to industrialise Lincolnshire, we will keep fighting tooth and nail, and I will definitely stand with you regarding any of those issues.
Thank you very much. Moving on, Councillor Ray Whittaker to Councillor Natalie Oliver.
Thank you, Chair. Councillor Oliver, we heard in a recent Children's and Culture Scrutiny Committee that the communication between agencies is key. How are we working with the partners and communities to make sure support for families is joined up and effective? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Whittaker, for your question. So in Lincolnshire, we work hand in glove with our partners, and that includes health, police, and our voluntary sector, as well as our schools. I recently visited our integrated front door, and that is a great example of how joined up working is providing real solutions for our children and families across the county. I'd like to also point out our youth services. They are an exemplary example of how joined up working approach works so well here in Lincolnshire. And as you are aware, they are currently rated as outstanding by Ofsted. Thank you.
Thank you. If we could move on to Councillor Killam Cook with a question to Councillor Sean Matthews in place of Councillor Michael Chain.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And firstly, I hope the leader will join me in thanking our highways officers for their superb work on the Stamford Town Bridge, reopening on the bank holiday weekend, supporting all of our local businesses. My question is relating to the local transport board meetings, which we used to have, which were consisted of members and officers from across various areas, dealing and looking at strategic matters. I appreciate they are currently being reviewed, and I understand that. However, when can we expect an update as to when they might be reinstated? Because they always worked really well, and one of the major issues in Stamford, as I'm sure many of you are aware, is the installation of rising bollards on the high street to prevent vehicles from driving up and down the high street. So if I can have an update in terms of the Transport Board and an update on the rising bollards, please.
Thank you, Councillor. It was fantastic to see the bridge opened ahead of schedule, and it's great to see it working really well again. It was vital work that would have meant, if it wasn't done, then that bridge would have failed, literally would have given up, and would have had to be spending much more money getting it sorted. As far as the Transport Board is concerned, they are vital. The review is taking place. I don't have an answer for you today. I will write to you or speak to you, whichever you prefer, once I have more details about that. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Brenda Collier to Councillor Liam Kelly, please.
Thank you, Chair. Can you please confirm if the council has signed up to a 99-year lease with no termination clauses, please, on the Heckington windmill? And do we have a future plan for the other windmills in Lincolnshire, please?
Thank you, Councillor Collier. I can confirm that the previous regime has committed this council and the taxpayers of Lincolnshire to a lease with costs and financial liabilities for a period of 99 years. A review is currently ongoing in regards to that windmill and 3 other windmills. Those 3 other windmills don't have leases associated with them, but they form part of a wider review. and the results of that review and recommendations will be made in due course as part of the scrutiny committee, as part of the scrutiny process. Thank you, Councillor Collier, and thank you, Chairman.
Thank you very much. If I could go to Councillor Stephen Rowe, a question to Councillor Natalie Oliver, please.
Thank you, Chairman. First, just want to acknowledge the announcement about the HAF programme. Fantastic. I'm pleased this government's agreed to continue the previous government's programme. Like you, I've visited several of those, and they are vital for the young people that go to them. My question is, we will hear later in the agenda that the last financial year, our children's services, as well as delivering outstanding performance, came within budget at year end again. It is concerning that this year's children's is forecast to overspend by 4.3 million, will fail to deliver 500,000, 50% of expected savings, and probably allow a 20 million school high need deficit, which will need to be allocated against reserves. What actions are being taken now to address this situation? Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you for your question, Councillor Rowe. So we inherited a budget where the high needs block has been on a path to overspend for some years. This is not new, and it is not unique to Lincolnshire. This is a much wider national issue. So actually Lincolnshire is in a better place than most of the councils, and we recognise that this is a real issue going forward. In terms of what we're doing at a local level, we are implementing schools with the resources and the support needed to be able to provide extra support to our children and families around the county. In terms of the national side, I am working with fellow councillors, fellow lead members in order to put together a proposal in order to lobby the government, in order to map out the consultation when we see the white paper in the autumn, in order to push for cross-party working to ensure that we get the reforms that we so desperately need in order to cater for what we need to cover in this national situation.
Thank you. We're on question 20. Councillor Adrian Finlay to Councillor Danny Brooks, please.
Thank you, Chair. My question to Councillor Danny Brooks is, recently in Skegness, we've only heard at the moment, but can't be confirmed, that there's a new anaerobic digestion plant for Skegness. So my question, we know the impact of them, so my question to Councillor Danny Brooks is, will he confirm that serious consideration of where these plants, not just for Skegness, but where these plants are put throughout the whole county, to prevent any impact on the residents, from not just from a planning point of view of where they're sited, but from an environmental impact point of view?
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Finlay, for your question. Yes, I've heard the rumours as well about Skegness, but we cannot do anything with that because there is no official plans gone in as yet, so there's nothing that for us to do on that particular case. I'm not keen on ADs, particularly when they affect the residents with the smells, so we will definitely pay attention to where they are and to who they are going to affect, because I don't think they're right for our area. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The next question will be Councillor Martin Hill to Councillor Danny Brooks.
Thank you. Busy day for you, Danny. And can I just thank you for coming to my patch about a flooding issue? It was very much appreciated. I see from your statement, which hopefully you've read, unlike Councillor McConjee, obviously didn't read his statement before it was published, that the Section 19 reports are all but complete, which continues the work that was done previously. So that's very good news. But of course, this is only the start of the issue, because then who is going to pay for all the recommendations which come forward? So there's two questions. One is, will you commit within the life of this council that all those Section 19 issues which are responsibility of the County Council will be dealt with? And secondly, can you look at a review of how the priority system works for these flooding reports? Because you'll recall from the call-in we had recently, the council is now proposing to spend over £500,000 for one Section 19 in the last 10 years, and paying a farmer £70,000 for a track, which in my opinion is a total waste of money. So can you commission a review of the priority system of all these Section 19 reports, so we get a bit more orderly session and don't waste council money like this?
Thank you, Councillor Hill, for your question. Yes, it's nice to see that the Section 19s have all been cleared up. We have got 5 further ones due to the recent rainfall, which we're working on. Any reviews of priorities of flooding, we take seriously, and we treat every resident the same. And if 50 houses are going to be flooded, or the potential of that, then I believe that they deserve the same consideration as anyone else in Lincolnshire. And I'm constantly reviewing the policies and how these things are sorted out. So yes, we will be reviewing it. We do review it, and I'm not sure that it was a waste of money to the residents that were potentially to be flooded. If you ask them, they would say it wouldn't be a waste of money.
Thank you very much. If we can go on to question 22, Councillor Hassan to Councillor Natalie Oliver.
Thank you very much, Chairman. My question is, in response to escalating concerns in Spalding West about insufficient, accessible and secure youth facilities, what strategic measure in the County Council taken to evaluate current provision and allocate sustainable long-term resources across urban and rural area? And in addition, how are young stakeholders engaged in co-design, and what frameworks monitor the effectiveness and outcome? Thank you.
I'm aware of the time, so I'll try and be quick. There are actually currently activities taking place on a Tuesday and a Wednesday evening in Spalding, Councillor Hassan, so I'll be very happy to share those details with you. We have a very small team that works county-wide on supporting the youth and their needs. They work with young people, and they also have a lot of volunteers who I would just like to thank, because they come across and they help our small team deliver these services across the county, which is just incredible. The delivery is under regular review, and we constantly engage with young people to ensure that the service meets their needs. So I will be happy to share those details after the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We have come to the end of 45 minutes. I do understand that these questions are extremely important, and I would like to suggest that we continue with the questions, but could I please ask people that they are kept short as possible, and the replies, if we do need detailed replies, I'm sure they could be provided in a written manner or a spoken manner outside this chamber. So with the hope that we're not going to spend hours on it, I'd like to now ask Councillor Richard, sorry, not just you, Richard, but everybody, Councillor Richard Davis to speak to Councillor Liam Kelly.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll be brief. Thank you, Councillor Kelly, and we saw a reprise of your TED Talk this morning. We saw the full-length edition at Growth Committee meeting this week. I'm a big fan of it. I just wish you would get the word synergy in a little bit more. You seem unable to present an answer to any of these cultural, systemic, performance management issues that you have identified. Councillor Dyer asked you very clearly during the week and you had no answer. Could I ask, while you're taking part in this great reset and analysis, you do check press releases and website links. Your latest missive on Business Lincolnshire included a broken link, meaning small businesses like mine that go to your press releases to get information will have presented with a page not found. Hopefully that's not your great reset in action.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Davies, for your question and indeed observations. And if you were present at the last Federation of Small Businesses, you would have seen me there communicating our communications plan and our proactive plan going forward in order to support those small businesses such as yourself, which we do intend to do. In regards to data, I can assure you that we are reviewing all data, such as the Heckington windmill lease and other sort of activities and legal reviews that should have taken place in regards to those type of activities in order to reduce the liabilities to the council and indeed the council taxpayer. So we won't release information until we are fully on top of all the data and that we have a corrective action plan in place. However, based on the sampling activities that I have seen, there are quite a few issues that have been resident within the council and its systems for a period of time that could improve with the correct levels of management commitment and oversight and drive from people within this chamber. So again, thank you very much there, Councillor Davies.
Thank you very much. If we could move on. Sorry, beg your pardon.
Yes, we will. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Chris Reeve to Councillor Steve Clegg.
Thank you, Chair. Councillor Clegg, at the last full council meeting, you answered a question from Councillor Clark about the status of the Ashley Court care home. Are you now in a position whereby you can bring us up to date with the current situation? Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Councillor Reeves. If I may, first of all, thank Councillor Clark for bringing this to this council's attention at the first council meeting back in May, where he raised concerns. And I'd like to, as I say, thank him for him doing that, because that has actually generated further interest from other possible providers to discuss with Amplis, the current owners, about a way forward. Myself and Councillor Clark went to visit Ashley Court very recently. I was very impressed by the staff there, had an opportunity to speak to the management there, and I understand that they're discussing with between 3 and 4 other possible providers as a way forward, and I'm hoping that by next council meeting I'll be able to give some positive news there. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We look forward to hearing that. So if we go to question 25, Councillor Maria Hume to Councillor Alex McGonigal.
Thank you, Chairman. First of all, thank you for the intensive and challenging work you've been undertaking over the last 5 months. But could you clarify some of the things that we are actually doing to improve the efficiency of our current fire services model?
Thank you for your question, Councillor Hume, and I'll keep it brief in the interest of time for Councillor Bunny, Chairman. So we've recently commissioned a data analysis company to come in and do a deep dive of the data within the Fire and Rescue Service to identify where there could potentially be efficiencies that can be made. That should be completed over the next 2 to 3 weeks, and hopefully off the back of the data that is presented with us, we can identify where we are able to make some more efficiencies moving forward. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. And I'm sure if there's more detail, you'll be able to give it in a written answer. Thank you very much for the question. Councillor Gary Taylor to Councillor Chain, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning. It is still morning. I understand Councillor Chain's unable to be here today, and again,
Yeah, apologies for that.
we wish him well in his recovery. So either to Councillor Matthews or Councillor Wimhurst regarding highways, not Councillor Gibson as the note referred to, so I understand the Chairman knows about that. I don't believe we've met him. Councillor for Spalding. It's a great place to live, work and do business. I'm not going to talk it down, as some people do. It seems to be fashionable. However, there's always room for improvement. This is actually regarding High Bridge area, Spalding. It borders Councillor Gibson, Spalding East area, and mine, Spalding South. This High Bridge area is an extremely busy junction for motorists, cyclists and pedestrians. A new crossing was improved last year by committee. However, there are further improvements and investments which are needed at this junction. So I do ask the question, please can we make this area a top priority for future improvements? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Taylor, and it's good to meet you too. Perhaps the best way forward would be for us to sit down with either Councillor Chain or Councillor Wimhurst and allow us to get a bit more detail about what it is you're looking for, and we'll get the officers in and we'll sort it out. But yes, you're absolutely right. I think a great deal of Spalding, and I look forward to getting down there soon.
Thank you very much. Councillor Ingrid Sheard to Councillor Natalie Oliver, please.
Thank you, Chair. It's a very simple question. The protection of our heritage sites in Lincolnshire, it's incredibly important. Will Councillor Oliver confirm that the preservation of our assets is at the forefront of all the decisions made?
Thank you for your question, Councillor Sheard. So I, for one, feel incredibly privileged to be a custodian of our incredible heritage sites here in Lincolnshire. They are so well-loved, well-visited, and they are actually worldwide ranking attractions now, which is just incredible. With that in mind, preservation will, of course, always be at the forefront. However, it would be incredibly narrow-minded to ignore preservation of these cherished assets and their benefit to our county, for which we rely so heavily on tourism. An example of this is the neglect of Lincoln Castle. So under the previous administration, there has been no planned investment and no structural maintenance plan since the reopening back in 2015. Therefore, we are now left with a backlog maintenance cost in the region of £12.5 million. So we have well and truly been left holding the baby, but as I said, very narrow-minded not to realise the preservation brings economical benefit. So absolutely, Councillor Shared, it will always be at the forefront. Thank you for your question. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. The next question is Councillor Rob Kendrick to Councillor Rob Gibson.
Thanks very much, Mr. Chairman. My question relates to complaints, and I was concerned to see that complaints have increased in all service areas except highways, and I was particularly concerned to see an increase in children's services. Now, I understand that most of the problems that come about that are causing complaints are due to communication issues, and that is mentioned in the report. But I'd be interested to know if there's any underlying reason as to why there's been an increase in complaints right across the board, as I say, with the exception to highways. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Chairman, and thank you, Councillor Kendrick, for your question. Yes, there has been an increase, not in highways, which apparently is a change. Highways is normally the highest complaints area. So we ought to pass on our congratulations to the Highway Department for obviously doing a good job at the moment. We've opened up the methods of accepting complaints. So social media is now, we're allowed to accept complaints through social media. That has given the public an easier and quicker way to send us some complaints, which we believe has probably increased the complaints we've had through. There's also a new code of practice which advises that any expressions of dissatisfaction must be considered under the complaints process, which wasn't before. So this has also increased the complaints. We welcome complaints because complaints gives us the opportunity to learn and make things better. So I wouldn't ask anybody to stop the complaints. Please keep them coming. We're open to learn from any mistakes necessary.
For those of you who are observant, I didn't do my maths properly. There are, in fact, 29 questions. So the final question, and thank you for keeping them all short so far, Councillor Mrs. Charlotte Vernon to Councillor Robert Gibson.
Thank you very much, Chairman, and thank you for allowing us to go on to ask all our questions. So, Councillor Gibson, members of the Planning and Regulation Committee, and indeed some other members, may be aware of the unexpected cancellation of the committee meeting set for the 1st of September and the moving of the meeting for the 6th of October being moved to the 29th of September. With the last Planning and Regulation Committee meeting being held on the 14th of July, this leaves a gap of 11 weeks in between meetings. I'd like to ask what impact this has had on determining both planning applications and TROs. I'm particularly concerned about our response to the National Grid Western Marsh application. This is an NSIP application which would usually come to a Planning and Regulation Committee for comment, or at least for informing as to the Council's comments. So I'd welcome your response on that. Thank you very much. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you for the question. I'm not so sure that I'm in charge of all committees and what dates they happen. I believe this one was moved because the agenda, the original date, the agenda was short, not much on the agenda, so they've moved it to fill the agenda. With regards to Western Marsh, obviously that's my division, something I'm very keen on, and I want to make sure that we have a full and robust response to that. Unfortunately, Western Marsh substation is the ground zero for everything that's coming through Lincolnshire. All pylons will be connected into Western Marsh. All offshore connections will be coming into Western Marsh. The new Western Marsh to Leicester needs Western Marsh, and it needs converters to be able to then bring in the 2,000 acres at Crowland into Western Marsh. Unfortunately, Western Marsh was signed off under the previous government.
Thank you. That brings us to the end of that session. If we could now move on to item 7 on the agenda, which is the review of the financial performance 2024 to 25. A report by the Deputy Chief Executive and Executive Director of Resources has been circulated. I would like to now, do I have a proposer for the item? Councillor Litchfield.
Thank you, Chair. I would like to move the item as detailed in the agenda.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Parkinson.
Thank you, Chair. I'm happy to second this motion.
Thank you. Do we have any speakers? Councillor Dilks.
Thank you, Chairman. In the debate in this chamber, which set the council's budget for the current financial year to next April, I moved an amendment on behalf of the Independent Group to create a flood emergency fund by ring-fencing £1 million of existing reserves. The idea grew out of the experiences of the severe storms which had recently flooded many residents from their homes across Lincolnshire, and was seen as a way of being able to offer more immediate help to those worst affected by any future flooding emergency. I'm pleased to say that the then Conservative administration embraced the idea, and I believe my motion was passed unanimously by Council, and the flood emergency reserve was duly established. However, here we are halfway through the year, and my reading of the financial report is that we're being asked today to return the funds to the General Volatility Fund reserve, thereby removing the ring fence and effectively scrapping the emergency flood reserve. However, I gather on arrival this morning from others that this matter's already been raised, and I'm advised that it's not the case. So I would just ask for reassurances that the flood emergency reserve, created just a few months ago, is not about to be scrapped. Thank you.
Councillor Matthews, if you'd like to answer that point.
Yes, I can assure you it's not about to be scrapped.
Thank you. Councillor Lee.
Thanks, Chair. It was just really to add to what Councillor Dilks had said. We worked together on that motion back in February, and I think Andrew Cookman might remember we spent a whole day trying to get it sorted out. It means a great deal to me, so I'd like to be very sure that Councillor Matthews has said it's not going to be taken. And please, when we come to setting budgets next time, let's look really favourably at flooding allocation, because it's not going to get any better, it's going to get worse. And cutting that, it affects all of the people that we all represent. So I'm pleased for that clarification. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Lee. Sorry to cut you, but the main part. Councillor Hill.
Yeah, I'd just like to support Councillor Matthews that the £1 million will be spent on flooding. I've had a reassurance. Obviously, extra, whether that will be repeated in future when we come to our council debate next February, obviously will be a matter for then. Obviously, this is an end-of-year report for the previous Conservative administration, and as you can see, it's a very, very good report. We came within budget, and obviously all services were either good or better. So I think it's the last time we will be discussing the Conservative budget, and we'll be discussing reform budgets from now on. I think it's good, and I think there is mention also to work ongoing in terms of finding the £25 million which the previous administration put in place. Just remind you of that. People boasting about we found this, we found that. This is the Conservative budget, which has been faithfully followed actually, up to now. So let's pretend that suddenly, because there was an election, everything's changed and it's all new. This is not new. And also, if you look at the report, you also see the level of borrowing was a lot less, over 40% less than we expected. So it's a good report, and hopefully when we come to, I did ask at Overview and Scrutiny whether we'd actually get any more information on the work that's ongoing, the alleged £15 million, which apparently officers have found, when we might get to hear that and understand it, so as councillors we can help the administration in their mission to find extra savings. So thank you for carrying on with our budget, thank you for carrying on with our savings plan, and if you want any help, we're here anytime.
Thank you very much. Have I got any other speakers? Councillor Matthews.
Thank you, you spotted the S. That's very kind, Councillor Hill. We'll take that on board. I'm sure, and in fact I've been assured, that at no stage in any of your budgets did you start talking about the budget until it was time to talk about the budget. So you can understand that we will be doing exactly the same. Thank you.
Thank you. I see no further speakers, so I will now move to the vote. All those in favour? Those against? Any abstentions? The motion is carried. Thank you. So moving on to item 8, which is the Lincolnshire Youth Justice Plan 2025-28. Again, a report has been circulated from the Executive Director of Children's Services. So do I have a proposer? Councillor Oliver.
Thank you, Chair. I move this item. Thank you.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Hassan. Are there any speakers? Just check. In that case, I will now move to the vote. Those in favour? Those against? Any abstentions? That is carried and I believe was unanimous. Thank you. So if we could move on to, get it right, item 9, which is the calendar of meetings 26-27. Again, a report has been circulated. I'm going to propose this from the chair, so I propose that the council meetings currently scheduled for 18th December 26 be rescheduled to the 11th of December 26. I move the recommendations set out in the report be approved subject to this amendment. Do I have a seconder?
Mr. Chairman, I'm happy to second.
Thank you, Councillor Beecham. Are there any speakers? Councillor Dyer.
Thank you very much, Chairman. And whilst we're on the calendar of meetings, I just want to draw the Council's attention to something that came to my attention earlier this week. In the interest of transparency, I was trying to review the minutes of previous recent council meetings. We can all watch the webcasts, but actually the minutes are the formal documentation of a minute that has gone by. And to my horror, minutes to council meetings are not published until the agenda for the next council meeting. So, for instance, this meeting today, the formal minutes won't be published until, I don't know, we've got the extra meeting in November, either November or December. Not many councils do that. In fact, I was watching the live stream for the, is it Warwickshire, with the young reform leader. I was watching the live stream for that, Councillor Matthews, and the minutes were published the same day. As you were going through their website, the minutes were there within hours after the meeting. And it came to my attention, actually, I don't think it's right that we have to wait weeks, if not months, for formal minutes to be published to council meetings. And I take that on the chin, because it was wrong of the Conservative administration that didn't do that previously. I've just discovered that. And whilst we're looking at the calendar of meetings, I think this is an appropriate time to bring it up to council. Actually, we as a council should set a standard for democratic services to produce the minutes of meetings within whatever time period the leader and the administration agree is suitable. In my mind, they should be published within a week, absolutely maximum. It is absolutely outrageous what the current system has in place, and I hope, Chairman, that the new administration agrees with me and follows suit like the Reform administration in Warwickshire and produces minutes much more promptly than this council currently does. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Dyer, and I'm sure that matter will be taken forward by the administration and democratic services and will come back to this chamber if it needs to at the appropriate point. It was not on the actual motion, but actually very well worth making. So if we could go back to the motion, which is the date of the meetings with the change from the 18th of December to the, that's next year, 18th December 12th, 26th to the 11th. I will now move the vote. All those in favour? Anyone against? Any abstentions? That motion is carried. If we can now move on to item 10, which is the appointments to committees, appointments of committee chairman. Again, the report has been circulated. Do I have a proposer? Councillor Gibson.
Thank you, Chairman. Happy to move that as laid out in the papers.
Thank you. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Sheard.
I'm happy to second that.
Thank you. Are there any speakers? Councillor Hill.
Yes, Chairman, I'll just carry on from what Councillor Vernon said, and I'm referring to paragraph 1.5. However, since vacancies have arisen in the position of Chairman of Planning and Chairman of the Definitive Map, could I ask when this vacancy arose, because as Councillor Vernon said, the Planning Committee, which last happened but one, the Chairman and the last planning committee, the chairman and vice chairman were both absent because I don't know why. Had they was there a vacancy arisen by then? This funny wording. Was there a resignation or something else? But I do think that it is correct because it's very important, as Councillor Vernon has said. There's a lot going on in planning, certainly with these national infrastructure projects. And like Councillor Gibson, I'm on the Western Marsh to Leicester line as well, Councillor Vernon, and I think Councillor Sheard as well. I've had to chase for about a month to get the response the council made on the 6th of August, which I have to say I totally agree, objecting to those plans, but really it's not acceptable that the planning committee haven't been told about that. This is really important, and I think the leader is very keen that this is addressed, and he's had videos about it and all the rest of it, but somehow the rest of us are to be kept in the dark, particularly those who actually live on the line. So one of the reasons I'm asking this is because there was, we don't know when, no chairman or vice chairman of the planning committee. Is this why things have gone through the cracks? And really, as a local member, although I totally agree and I support the objection that's been made, unfortunately South Kesteven didn't feel fit to object to this proposal by National Grid. Fully support it, but it would have been really nice if we could have been told. And I think we need to know when the vacancy arose, and it's really up to you whether you want to add any more information on that.
Thank you very much. Do you want to comment, Councillor Matthews?
Thank you, Councillor Hill. Well, the reality is we were trying to see if Councillor Daesh was going to be well enough. Unfortunately, he's been quite poorly and in a lot of pain. We were hanging on, and by the way, where is he? It's great to see him here today. I was worried about him. I thought that might have been the first by-election, but he's all fit. Well, he's not, but he's feeling a bit better. The decision was he decided that he wished to stand down from all works that he was doing for the council because of his ill health. He's on the road to recovery. I don't believe that the movement of the meetings was anything to do with that. I just think it was very light agenda, if I seem to remember. But Thomas, behind you, Thomas Sneath has taken over as chairman, and I'm sure it'll be smooth sailing from now on.
Thank you very much.
Can I just come back on that, Chairman? The question was, when did the vacancy arise? And I think the new chairman did a very good job, and I think the old chairman, I wish him well. And so when did the vacancy actually arise? And the issue is nothing much happening. Well, we just heard there's a massive pile-on application going across the county, and apparently because there wasn't a planning committee, it wasn't important enough to let the rest of us know.
Right, thank you. Just very quick, please.
Yeah, sure. So like I said, we were trying to hang on to find out whether he was going to be well enough or not. The decision, I think it was July, he spoke to me and stood down.
Okay, well, if there's any doubt that could perhaps be carried on outside the chamber. Thank you very much. And we all wish Councillor Daesh a full recovery as soon as possible.
Thank you very much.
Okay, if I could therefore now move to the vote. Those in favour? Those against? Those abstaining? The motion is carried. If I could now move on to item 11, the appointments to the outside bodies. Again, a report has been circulated. Do I have a proposer? Councillor Reeve.
Thank you, Chair. I'm happy to move this item forward as is laid out in the detailed report.
Thank you very much. Is there a seconder? Councillor Cullen.
I'm
I'm happy to second that motion, Chairman.
Thank you. Can we now, are there any speakers on this? Not seeing any, so I will move to the vote. Those in favour? Those against? Abstentions? The motion is carried. We'll move on to item 12, a executive decision, Rule 17, a special urgency. A report has been passed on to all by the Leader of the Councillor. Do I have a Leader of the Council. Do I have a proposer? Councillor Clegg.
Thank you, Chairman. There's a requirement in our Constitution for the Leader of the Council to report any decisions made under our Rule 17 urgency provisions. This report, previously circulated with the agenda, fulfills that requirement, and I move that the Council notes the report. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Hume.
Happy to second.
Thank you. Are there any speakers? Thank you. This is obviously a matter, so I'll now move to the vote. Those in favour? Those against? Abstentions? The motion is carried. We now move on to item 13, motions on notice submitted in accordance with the Council's constitution. And we have received a motion from the Conservative Group, and I'd like to ask Councillor Davis to move the motion.
Mr. Chairman, members, thank you for this opportunity. Rural England is the heart of England. This motion is about protecting Lincolnshire, our communities, our economy, and our future. Now, we know from recent statements that military sites, active and disused, are being considered for asylum seeker accommodation. Only last year, RAF Scampton was at the centre of such a proposal. It was abandoned after costs escalated, I think, to over £180 million, and issues were found with land contamination, unexploded ordnance, transport issues, to name but a few. It was clear then, Mr. Chairman, you know it well, Scampton was not fit for that purpose. But let us remember, Scampton is not just any site. It isn't just any airfield. It has one of the most ambitious regeneration projects, not only in the county, but in the country, planned for that site. It will create, if enacted, thousands of jobs, drive hundreds of millions of pounds worth of investment, and help to preserve our critical national military heritage. To use it instead as a holding camp for asylum seekers would not only waste public money, but would rip the heart out of those plans, and it would turn a symbol of opportunity into a symbol of neglect. But it's not just Scampton, Mr. Chairman. Lincolnshire is home to more than 50 military bases, both current and former, ranging from Coningsby, Waddington, Cranwell, Prince William of Gloucester Barracks in Grantham, which are all active, but we still have sites like Woodall Spa, Hemswell, Binbrook. Many of these sites are in deeply rural areas, miles from hospital, miles from schools, and suffer with very poor transport links. The roads are often poorly connected, only accessible by narrow country roads, and lack the necessary infrastructure to cope with large groups of people being suddenly placed there. In practice, these proposals would put pressure not on asylum seekers, but on already stretched local services in rural Lincolnshire. But colleagues, Mr. Chairman, this isn't just about infrastructure. It's about social cohesion, where asylum seekers have been concentrated in places like Wethersfield in Essex. Communities have seen real division. The segregated nature of these camps fosters a sense of othering, making people feel that outsiders are being dropped on their doorstep. Protests become more common, fueled by misinformation and resentment. We've all seen on the television some of the ugly scenes. We don't need that here in Lincolnshire. But there are also serious health and safety concerns. Local councils elsewhere, including Braintree, Folkestone Hythe, have opposed these schemes because they didn't have the necessary emergency services to cope. Residents feared for women and children, citing alleged assaults or disorder, overcrowding and poor conditions. Here in Lincolnshire, where many of these bases are in small rural villages, our police, we've already heard about the police, our NHS, we know what the situation, and councils would be stretched beyond reason. Economically, these policies are unsound. Using military sites does not come cheaply. Now, I believe councils receive about £3,500 per asylum seeker per occupied bed space, but that's obviously heavily restricted on what they can spend it on and very often inadequate. Meanwhile, regeneration plans like Scampton are put at risk. This project alone would create thousands of jobs. Why sacrifice that for an unsuitable short-term asylum facility? And finally, there's a matter of local democracy. Councils, yet again, have been sidelined. In West Lindsey, enforcement officers have taken issue with unlawful works. In Braintree, multiple judicial reviews have taken place over illegal practices and the use of Wethersfield as a base. Now, these weren't NIMBY protests. This isn't people complaining for no reason. There were councils trying to defend planning law and community well-being up against national diktats. We, all of us, cannot stand idly by and let that here in Lincolnshire. But I'm afraid, Mr. Chairman, this is where the contradiction bites. Nationally, Reform UK, the party that runs this council, has set out a policy of housing asylum seekers on military bases. Yet locally, we know what that would mean. Lost regeneration schemes, lost investment, lost jobs, and new burdens on small rural communities that can least afford it. Now, our residents deserve clarity. Will this council defend Lincolnshire's future, or will it follow the national reform line? Look, the motion is very straightforward. It's on the papers in front of you. It simply calls on the executive to work with MPs, district councils, I'd include our mayor with that, residents to oppose any such proposals in Greater Lincolnshire, and to lobby the government instead to protect our regeneration opportunities instead. Colleagues, Lincolnshire should not be a dumping ground for poorly thought through national politics. Our rural communities are not equipped to carry this burden, and development opportunities should not be sacrificed. I commend this motion to the Council.
Thank you, Councillor Davis, and I call on Councillor Dyer to second them.
I second, Chairman, and reserve my right to speak.
Thank you very much. I believe Councillor Gibson will speak next.
Yes, thank you, Chairman, and thank you for the motion and bringing this important subject, two important subjects forward, actually. On our side, we have an amendment to make, and I believe Dems are frantically trying to put it up. It was an amendment I tried to get out to everybody yesterday. I apologise that didn't happen. Unfortunately, a clash of diaries and an overrun of a mayoral combined authority meeting I was in, I wasn't able to get it out.
Councillor Lee.
Point of order, Chair. I just would point out, I know constitutionally we can do this at the very last minute, but it really is poor practice. I received that amendment at 9:30 this morning after being told at 12 o'clock yesterday we were going to get it in a couple of hours. And I'm sorry, it feels very much as if things are having to be run by Reform Central before locally we're getting an answer. And it has to be better than that if we're going to have the agreement that we've had previously about amendments. It's not a dig at anyone, but that really was too late, 9:30 this morning.
We take the point. I think we hopefully got the paper coming up on the screen. I don't know how many people have seen this. Oh.
I'm not sure if this is where we're housing everybody, Chairman, but if it is, I'll take a ticket.
Yes. Was it a bit flooding coming in?
Mr. Chairman, could I just back up that point of order? I mean, I've got to say, you know, there has been a protocol for a number of years in this chamber where amendments are made. They are made in good time before the meeting is opened. I take the point that my colleague Councillor Lee has made. I was told, at 10 o'clock, oh, it's just been emailed to you. Well, thank you for that, but I haven't had a chance to look at the email yet. And the protocol has been in the past that we circulate these things in paper copies, so we can actually have it in front of us.
Councillor
and have a look.
Dilks,
And I'd ask if we could do that today.
Yeah, I fully understand. I think that the point is made and taken, and hopefully we will get back to that practice. But at the moment, it is important that we go forward. But I think we've now got it on the screen. I'll have to... I was going to say, can you read it? Do we need it?
I will endeavour to read it to you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Gibson.
If they don't keep making it bigger so I can't see it. I take on board what you're saying, Councillor Dilks, Councillor Lee. Yes, I did try to get it to you. Unfortunately, Councillor Matthews was in a meeting all day yesterday, and when he came out of a meeting, I was in a meeting, and I was here till nearly 10 o'clock last night. Tried to get it to you. I do apologise. It will come to you earlier next time, I can assure you. The changes we've looked to make are in red underlined. So the public oppose the government's proposal to use urban sites in Greater Lincolnshire for asylum seeker accommodation and to insist on only using secure remote sites where necessary. Number 2, 3 and 4, no change. We would like to strengthen this motion. We would like the leader to request the leader to write to Lincolnshire MP, Hamish Falconer MP, to strongly oppose the Labour government on any proposals to use RAF Scampton for asylum seeking accommodation. And lastly, request that the leader meets with the Lincolnshire Police and Crime Commissioner to inquire how our underfunded police service would cope with any additional policing requirements associated with such a large proposal, and then relay this to the government. We simply stand here trying to strengthen the motion that's been put forward in front of us. A lot of people on this side, probably across the House, this is a emotive subject. I think a third of our side on this side are ex-forces. So anything to do with forces base is something that's extremely valuable to us and sits dear in our heart. We do not want to be using sites that offer Lincolnshire tourist or regeneration prospects. We do not want to be upsetting that at all. So I'll probably go out on a limb a little bit, but even if the National Party was telling us what to do, I think we would be having conversations and urging them and informing them how important this is to us and everybody in this chamber.
Thank you. I've got a point of order on the left here. Councillor Davis.
I'm going to do one of those boring points.
Sorry, I beg your pardon. I've got to get it seconded first, and then we'll hold it. My apologies for that. Can we have we got it seconded?
Thank you, Chair. I would like to second that and also reserve the right to talk at a later time.
Okay, thank you very much. Now, Councillor Davis, apologies for rushing.
It's fine. Could I move that we suspend standing orders 13.6b so that multiple amendments can be discussed at a singular debate, but also 13.9, removing rights of reply to allow movers to participate freely when they consider most appropriate.
So that is moved.
Moved and hopefully seconded.
Can we have a seconder for that?
I'm happy to second that, Chairman. Thank you.
Councillor Hill? Oh, thank you. Right, so if we've had that proposed and seconded, can I have a vote? Councillor Overton?
Question. I didn't quite understand that. Did I hear also to remove the right to reply? Is this the normal removals that you're doing that we've done in the past, or is this something different? Thank you.
It's the normal procedure that we've followed in the past. Okay, then. So we've had the motion to suspend standing orders. Can I have a vote for those in favour? Those against? So that has fallen. Abstentions, I beg your pardon. 2? Okay. Right, so that has fallen, so we now debate the amendment. Councillor Hill.
Mr. Chairman, point of order, if I may. We did just talk about, whether or not we're going to get paper copies. I understood that perhaps we were. And I've got to say, I do appreciate, and I think the amendment looks very interesting, I've got to say. But, you know, I'd much prefer to have a hard copy in front of me because, you know, it gets flashes up and then we see a paragraph and you don't see the whole thing in its entirety. And I'd like to see that. And I'd like to propose that we adjourn for 5 minutes or as long as it takes to circulate hard copies.
Well, we've got a proposal for
I
adjournment.
will second that.
Okay, so if I could just ask those who would appreciate us going for an adjournment for 5 minutes, if you could show, please. Those against? Right, so if we could do that, the hard copies would be on the arrangement. Thank you very much. So you've got 5 minutes, comfort back. Cool. The Chamber, can I ask, has everyone received a copy, a paper copy of the amendment? Thank you very much for all those people who've put that together for us. I'm sure it will help us in our debate. The situation is at the moment we are about to commence the debate on the amendment as you have had circulated to you. It has been proposed and seconded, and I'd now like to open it for discussion. Councillor Hill.
Thank you. I would not like to support the amendment, Chairman. I thought the original motion was pretty straightforward, very simple. I think everybody in Lincolnshire would oppose these putting asylum seekers in ex-military camps. So I think the original motion which Richard Davis brought forward was straight and forward to the point. I think the truth's out now, really, isn't it? That the amendment is nothing to do with the fact that I don't agree with the motion. The amendment is all about the conflict between what Nigel Farage or Richard Tice, whoever it was, said about putting asylum seekers in ex-RAF camps, military camps, of which there are many and many in Lincolnshire, and we are under huge threat from that. So 5 and 6 amendments basically are padding. They don't really add much to the situation, because I think the original motion makes it quite clear, having talking to other people. Number 1 is where it all comes to a head, of course, where it says we oppose the government proposal to use urban sites in Greater Lincolnshire. Well, last time I looked, I don't think Scampton could be described as urban. And then it says insists on only using secure remote sites where necessary. I think I should also point out that under the current legislation, if Scampton or somewhere else was used, and I think the ex-leader of District Council did a lot of work, the people who live there are entitled to walk out whenever they want. So this isn't a situation where it's like a prison, if you like. It is quite serious if we get lots of these across Lincolnshire. I don't think any of Lincolnshire, I don't think anybody's going to suggest putting one in the middle of one of our towns, but it's clearly what's going on here, and we just voted out the opportunity to have a more substantial debate on this very, very matter. Reform voted it out because they want this debate to go away as quickly as possible, and the question is, and I think it's a valid question, and it was raised at the first council meeting, are the leadership of Reform here for Lincolnshire people, or are they here to obey the instructions of Reform Central? I know some of them have already said they wish to be MPs, and we know how democratic the Reform Party is. Basically, Nigel picks the phone up and announces who it's going to be. So I think this is all about Reform actually trying to cover up the fact that they have been told differently by National, and they've come up with this form of words. And I have a strong suspicion, Councillor Dilks, the reason for the delay was actually they had to check with the bosses in London or wherever they are, in the Middle East or wherever they currently are, that whether this was all right. So this is all about standing up for Lincolnshire, Chairman. When we were in control of this council, without fear or favour, we challenged the Conservative government, and I hope this people opposite will do the same.
Thank you very much, Councillor Hill. I've got Councillor Carrington to speak.
Yes, thank you very much indeed, Chairman. I also do not support the amendment. I'll come back to the Deputy Leader's comments that it was intended to strengthen in a moment, but there is a background to this, which is that for years central government has not really paid due attention to the countryside in England. We all know the long struggle that this council has had for many years in favour of fair funding. That has got worse with the current government, which is obsessed, as far as we can tell, with the Red Wall, and its view on the countryside is it's a place where you put solar panels and pylons, and its regard for rural areas really can be summed up by the disgraceful attack on farmers and death duties on agricultural businesses. So fundamentally, this county has some towns and some large villages in it, but it is a rural area, not an urban area. So why on earth does this amendment to the motion have there in big red letters the word urban? Why is that there? This is a fundamentally or primarily rural county. The party opposite must know that because they won a majority in this House. And when we're talking about ex-military assets in Lincolnshire, there are, of course, some which are not RAF or ex-RAF, but basically we're talking about former RAF territories. There aren't many urban airfields. There is a clue in the name, field. They are in rural areas. And I think it is absolutely disgraceful to insert this division, to penalise people living in the countryside in favour of some sound bites that have been garnered by the political leadership of Reform in London, penalising Lincolnshire people in rural areas. They get to be dumped on by central government with asylum seekers, whereas those in urban areas apparently will not be. This does not, Chairman, strengthen the motion which Councillor Dade has put forward. It seriously weakens it, and for those reasons, I hope no one in this chamber will support it. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Carrington. Our next speaker is Councillor Parkinson.
Thank you very much, Chair. I felt it appropriate to speak on this motion, given it names the Prince William of Gloucester Barracks, which falls within my division. I want to make my position very clear. I do not support housing migrants on this site. I do not support the closure of this site. The barracks should remain open. I'm going to be very, very clear with the party. I will fight them if they choose to house migrants on this site. I will fight back. I can give the members opposite that reassurance. I have been given reassurance by the party that they will not be housing migrants in Lincolnshire. So I think this motion should pass.
Thank you. Councillor Matthews.
Thank you, Chairman. It's funny, isn't it? Because this really is £48 million worth of Tories' ideas. And now they're in opposition, they clutch their pearls with disgust at the idea of using Scampton as a base for housing.
Could I just have a point of information there, Chairman? Locally, the County Council was always against this proposal. Nationally, he has a point. Locally, he hasn't.
Thank you very much.
I didn't say local. Tories' idea of housing... You're Tories. I don't disassociate myself from Reform. You shouldn't be disassociating yourself from the Tories. But it was your idea, Tories' idea, to house migrants in RAF Scampton, and they stand there clutching their pearls, pretending that it is nothing to do with them. It is their party that started this and wasted £48 million of taxpayers' money to try and get RAF Scampton
Point of information.
as a base for keeping...
I don't think the leader was listening to my... There is a difference between the National Party, where we actually stood up to the National Party. You, Councillor Matthews, are just a yes man for Nigel Farage and Richard Tice. Admit it.
Thank you. Can we get back to Councillor Matthews?
Thank you. Yes, it's fantastic to hear Nigel Farage being mentioned all the time by people that are so worried about reform. Another 4 councillors yesterday elected. So yes, we are on the rise and we are doing very well. Thank you, Councillor Hill. Not only is it the Tories' idea of putting these migrants into RAF Scampton, they are the ones that also approve the pylons, the solar farms, the wind
Chairman,
farms.
point of order. The Leader of the Council is not speaking to either the main motion or the amendment. That is unconstitutional. He should be speaking to the amendment, not going off on one of his rants. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Dye. Can I just say that I do think we do need to keep to the main motion, which is to do with the asylum seekers and Scampton. Thank you very much.
So back to my point. The well put Councillor Parkinson talking about the barracks near where he lives, in fact part of his area, is an urban barracks. And what it quite clearly says here is that we insist on only using secure, remote sites where necessary. At the moment, we have too many people in hotels and the likelihood of them getting put into HMOs. So I would be open to putting these people, human beings, into somewhere that is secure and somewhere that we can keep them safe before either being deported or allowed back into the country. But to argue about this pinhead of a decision when all of us in this room, except almost 99% of what we are talking about today, on a word, is, quite frankly, playing politics. Thank you.
Thank you.
Chairman, just a point of information, please, if I may, and genuinely, can Councillor Matthews, please, for the record and for the council, define what he means by secure? Is that locked and remote? Is that locked in like a prison, or is that? I want Councillor Matthews. I appreciate it might be illegal, but I want Councillor Matthews to define.
Can we just
what he
have a
means by
straightforward
secure.
question? Councillor Matthews, could you answer that particular point, and then we'll move the debate on.
So secure is secure. I'm not ever so sure what the complication is. Locked up, not allowed out. You can't do it at the moment because your Tory government for the last 13
Excuse
years
me,
never got round
we
to
were
sorting
asked.
it out. Well, we can't have people shouting at me from a
Well,
sedentary
I'm
position.
asking that everybody settles down and we move on. We've
So
had the.
I think the other point was remote. Yes, remote means in the middle of nowhere, if that clarifies it.
Thank you very much. I think we've had that point. If we can now move on to Councillor Kelly, please.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you also for outlining your past performance in regards to Scampton and saying that you were in support of not using Scampton to house illegal immigrants. However, I always say you are always measured on your past performance. And I just wonder if any of you recognise this. Because this here is what we used to wear outside of RAF Scampton when we were protesting. So not only did we speak about it, but our actions demonstrated our commitment to Scampton. So I will reiterate the point there, and also the fact that myself as an executive councillor, I will not support the use of Scampton for illegal migrants, or should the terminology of their status change. I remain adamant and committed to that. I will put local community, county and country before Westminster, 100%. But what I also would like to raise the point is we have to look at the causal factors as to why we are where we are. And that is as a result of the failures of the Tory government to get a grip of the illegal immigration issue that this country is blighted with, and indeed across Europe as well. And it's down to leadership and having the moral courage to do what is the right thing. You failed to do that in your 14 years in office, and I'm not going to congratulate Labour. However, you know, they have broken records and they've done it in less than 14 months. So I also asked the Labour Party to refer to their local MP and ask him to publish back on records as well that his party will not be using Scampton in support of illegal immigrants, or should that status change, the terminology of illegal immigrants. Scampton should be used for what is in the best interests of the county, and that is the only thing that should be in question. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. I would now like to ask Councillor Dilks to speak.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We all want to stop the boats, of course we do, and smash the evil gangs that are cashing in on human tragedy. But in my opinion, this motion has not been thought through, it's not sensible, and it's more about political point scoring, as we've just seen, and potentially stirs up more division rather than offering real solutions to a problem. And it doesn't offer the responsible leadership that people deserve. The issue should not be a political football, which we've seen nationally, sad to say, in the opening remarks in this debate, we're seeing two bald men arguing about a comb. I've heard the mover and seconder of the motion. I'll rephrase that. Metaphorically, thank you.
Metaphorically.
I do apologise to both of you. You have got hair, lovely hair. I've heard the mover and the seconder say their motion is to protect sites such as RAF Scampton and the barracks at Grantham. which, by the way, is of course an operational military site, and it's likely to be until at least 2028. I can understand that, and I understand the campaign that the Lib Dems, frankly, led on to stop Scampton, and congratulations to them and the protesters, you know, that succeeded in doing that. But the motion, the opening line of the motion, fails to distinguish between former military and non-military sites. It suggests all sites, and it suggests to me, you know, publicly oppose any government proposals. I think it was irresponsible for us as a council not to engage with the government in whatever solutions they might possibly present to us. Now, we can argue them, yes, of course, and I would not want to see Scampton used for asylum seekers, or Grantham, or some of those other sites that have been mentioned. But it also seems to, Conservative members also complained about lack of public consultation in these matters. Did you see the Tories' Shadow Home Secretary, Mr Philp, responding to protests outside the Bell Hotel in Epping Forest the other day, saying that people are sick and tired of asylum seekers being housed in hotels without any public consultation, which is precisely what my colleagues on the Conservative benches are arguing about now. And Nick Robinson had to remind Mr Philp of the name of the Tory immigration minister who opened up that same Bell Hotel to asylum seekers without any public consultation. It was someone called Mr Chris Philp.
Councillor Dilks, can you bring your comments to an end, please?
Okay, I certainly will. It's also confused because a couple of days ago, the same Mr Philp, I'll stop after this bit, but the same Mr Philp actually called for illegal immigrants to be immediately deported, but in the meantime, he said alternative accommodations such as former military sites should be used. It's all so confusing, you know, coming. And I just sort of say, let's calm down. Let's listen to what the government what solutions they may or may not have. And there may be, you know, yes, remote sites. I think I do see some credibility in the amendment, but I have to say I think I'm going to abstain on the issue.
Thank you, Councillor Dilks. No problem. Thank you very much. Councillor Young.
Thank you, Chairman. Well, Chairman, I'm going to support the amendment. We have to recognise that the Conservatives who proposed the use of RAF Scampton as an asylum centre back in 2023, it was an ill-thought-out plan by the Tories that only cost the taxpayers millions of wasted pounds, £87 million, I think, the last calculation, but it stalled the £300 million development plan for the site. This political government decision to use RAF Scampton was deliberately calculated at the time, knowing that the sitting MP would withstand any local challenge and hold their seat. They totally ignored any concerns and worry from local residents about the proposed site, and the Tory government displayed an unsympathetic approach to the community and the engagement around that. We also have to recognise, Chairman, that West Lindsey District Council, had it been Conservative controlled at the time, would have already had asylum seekers on the site. They would have unlikely have taken their own government to judicial review. The Conservatives government clearly would have proceeded with RAF Scampton if West Lindsey hadn't been so robust regarding their planning requirements, which the government failed to overcome. In regards to call for action, I would say in terms of the amendment, does it go far enough? A recent cross-party meeting with ministers, the Minister Angela Eagle, she promised a decision on the site for the future of the site by November. And I would say that we need an urgent meeting regarding the progress around that matter. But I'm going to support the amendment.
Thank you very much, Councillor Young. I think the next speaker is Councillor Whitaker.
Thank you, Chair. Can I just clear a point up here, please? This amendment says using secure remote sites where necessary. As far as I know, after being in the RAF for 25 years, there are only 3 secure sites in Lincolnshire. namely Coningsby, Waddington and Digby, which are still in use by the RAF. The next closest one to here is in Lincolnshire, which is Marham, another nice secure site. All the other sites, unless I stand to be corrected if possible, are not secure sites. They might have a fence around them, but they are by no means secure. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you very much, Councillor Whittaker. If we could go to Councillor Brockway, please.
Thank you very much, Chairman. I think fundamentally a lot of us are actually on the same side over this. We really don't want Scampton and our bases to be used or misused. And I think that's the thing we need to get back to. It's fine to get cross with each other and take a punt at each other occasionally. That's politics. But then, you know, we don't need to miss the core point. Now, Councillor Kelly, I too was at Scampton, and I'm really glad to see that you went as well. And I sat there with people, and the local people, especially in the school, and my residents up there were very frightened. It was a serious and genuine fear. And nobody is disputing that the policy of the Conservative Party in relation to Scampton was wrong. But it is also very important to remember that we fought that policy very hard. We weren't afraid to fight our own party. We fought them because that was the right thing to do, and we won. I was at West Lindsey, and Councillor Trevor Young is saying that, you know, the Conservatives would have had the asylum seekers there. Don't be ridiculous. We were fighting long before he ever got any position of prominence there, which he now no longer holds. The current government has put Scampton and others back on the table. And I think that's the worry for us at the moment. You know, we're all going to fight reform and the Conservatives and all the rest of it, but the government that's put it back on the table is the Labour government. And I would suggest that there's a lot in this amendment. I'm perfectly happy with 5 and 6, but I can't support it because of 1. And the urban is an issue because that will introduce fear in the minds of the people who live in the very rural areas. And the other thing is, I do think that this identification of the word secure is important because I'm not sure how you will get past human rights laws to lock these asylum seekers up. If it's secure, you're going to close the gates and you're going to keep them locked. How are you going to get past that? So I'm afraid I am unable to support these amendments. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Brockway. The next speaker will be Councillor Rowe.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This amendment has been has been proposed and supported by Reform. We've already had one councillor stand up and defend a rural area. We've had another councillor stand up. I don't know whether his is urban or rural, but whichever way, you don't really support this amendment because you've just spoke against it. Do I take it that all the other Reform councillors that support areas or are the councillors for the areas where there are redundant sites actually quite happy to have those sites used for these asylums or whatever you want to call them? Or are you also going to stand up and say, not in my area? Because to be perfectly honest, I don't think you actually support this. I just think you're saying you do because it appears to be what the party wants to happen. But I'd love to see you stand up and say, not in my area. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much. And the next speaker will be Councillor Lee.
Thank you, Chair. Bear with me, I'm not very well today. Any discussion around Scampton is purely speculative at present because there's been no government announcement made. But I'm going to say publicly now, but I don't support putting asylum seekers at Scampton. I just think it's not the right place. The Conservatives' apparent suggestion in their motion is that LCC won't use sites in Lincolnshire to house asylum seekers. And that's not a sentiment I can support because to me that's saying that Lincolnshire won't have any asylum seekers here and we have got to take our fair share. And all the individual sites, wherever they are, they've got to be considered on individual merit. And I would make the point too, I'm old enough to remember, we had a Conservative government at Westminster and a Conservative controlled administration at county offices in 2023 when Robert Jenrick, as Immigration Minister, pushed hard to use Scampton to house asylum seekers. He wasted £48 million of taxpayers' money, people like me had contributed that, on trying to achieve his aims. And I will acknowledge that no one was happy at 2023, but at no point did the Conservative group at LCC bring a motion to Council making public their opposition to the Conservative government's proposals to Scamptons. So I think there's a bit of political posturing going on. And in all the years that I've been here, in the 4+ years, I've never known anyone break the whip at Council either. So to say that they all stand up for things, I'm sorry, I just don't. I don't support that either. It took a Labour government and a Labour MP, Lincoln's Hamish Faulkner, to change the situation at Scampton. And we need to remember as well, we've had 14 months of Labour government trying to tackle a situation that they inherited after 14 years of a Conservative government. So let's be realistic about this. And I was just ask Councillors Davies and Dyer, and perhaps the rest of their group, why a motion now? And why not in 2023? Why the change of heart? Is it a bit of political posturing? But for me, this motion ignores the plight of people who have left behind everything they know to make a perilous journey to seek asylum in a safe country. Many are traumatised when they get here and they need proper support to work through that trauma. I'm not convinced they'd get that support at Scampton. Very quickly, Reform are fast turning into the Tory party. Mark II, aren't they? The number of people that join from the Tory party seems to go up by the day or by the month. And I'm really, really hoping that come Christmas, we don't see one of the Reform or Conservative group running around the chamber in a blue sequin suit and bursting into song, turning us all into insomniacs. But seriously, let me say this, my final point. I just hope that we can all remember that we're dealing with human beings here. These asylum seekers are human beings, and let's have a bit of compassion. Please, please. But for that reason, I'm abstaining from this.
Thank you very much, Councillor Lee. Councillor Bowles.
Thank you, Chairman. I will be supporting the amendment because I do think it is the right thing to do and send the right message. I won't go over all of the reasons. I do agree completely with the vast majority of what Councillor Lee has just said. I will kick back a little bit on the statement she made that the change was down to Mr Faulkner. It's clearly evidence that West Lindsey District Council were the ones holding the government feet to the floor. We were the ones who issued the stop notices. We were the ones who went to the High Court, the judicial review. We were the ones who put potentially our council's future at risk by committing the fundings. That was done cross-party at West Lindsey, so I do take issue with that. The main point in this one for me is point number 2, and it goes back to what I've just said. Working together, district councils, MPs, local communities. Unless we do that, we're not going to have any success in this. You know, we will get rolled over. We need to be stronger together. And from the conversation that we had with Councillor Kelly at Scrutiny Committee earlier this week, I am reassured that the administration will work positively and strongly with West Lindsey District Council in particular regarding Scampton and the plans for that. So I'm happy to support the amendment.
Thank you very much, Councillor Bowles. Councillor Dyer.
Thank you very much, Chairman. Thank you very much, Chairman. We put this forward in a cross-party, non-political way. Apart from the preamble, the four points are not political in any way. Now, Councillor Gibson said he was up till 10 o'clock at night doing this. So, Councillor Gibson, just up to, I didn't know whether you were an insomniac, that was all. So I was going to start singing. But seriously, I think when we had this discussion, because we wanted we knew you'd put an amendment forward and we wanted to support that. And I think points 5 and 6, they essentially are an expansion of point 2. Just to provide a little bit more detail there, but they're an expansion of that. But the Conservative group, as we've just said, we cannot support your amendment because of the one word in there, urban sites. That use of the word urban rules out the vast majority of Lincolnshire, Mr. Chairman. And that is the sticking point. Councillor Matthews, thank you for defining what you meant by secure. I thought that's what you meant. But as has been said, whether you think you're going to win the election or not, that's many years away. That is, as it currently stands, against the law. And we have to work to the laws that we have now. So that last point, I'm afraid to say for you, Mr. Chairman, is irrelevant because it's not possible at the moment. So all you are basically saying, changing really from our original motion, is that you're not bothered about rural areas and you're just focusing on urban areas. I think the inclusion of the word urban was a mistake on your part, whoever proposed the amendment, Rob. And I think you should probably admit that now, and then you can even propose another amendment if you want without the word urban. You can do that constitutionally. Because I don't want to question, Councillor Kelly, what you got up and said. What you said at scrutiny the other day. We're not questioning that. We're not questioning your stance at all. Because we know, and we thought we were coming to this council with something the council could get behind. I just think there's been an error in your amendment, and I think rather than voting something through that you don't agree with, vote this down and propose another amendment. You can do that. That really is the premise of my point. We will be voting against your amendment because of the use of the word urban. And I think, based on some of the comments that have been said, you're probably sat there now thinking, yeah, we don't agree with this either. So do the noble thing, Councillor Gibson, vote down your amendment, and then you can vote something forward that actually this council can accept. Because at the moment, if you're in a rural community, Reform UK don't stand up for you, because that's what it says here. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Dyer. The next speaker will be Councillor Overton.
Thank you very much, Chairman. I think we have today a really big problem which has been highly publicised and highly politicised nationally, and that's why we're in this situation. We have to bear in mind that the numbers that appear to come in that are of people in significant need, it seems, and that we struggle, our country struggles to assess them quickly enough or accurately enough to make sure that they are dealt with appropriately and quickly. I understood when I was on the government committee working with the government on what to do about asylum seekers. We did have a joint committee chaired nationally with local and national government. And the big issues that we did raise were about making sure local government was properly engaged so that we didn't just have large numbers arrive from nowhere without the possibility of finding better options or indeed of finding resources to provide for the new arrivals that then became necessarily able to live here if they were found justified. And the number that were found justified is quite high. So if you think the hotels are expensive, there'll certainly be greater costs on our community once they are allowed to stay, once they've been assessed, because the proportion is high. So instead of £50 a week, we've got to provide all of what we would provide for any other citizen of the country. So unfortunately, that doesn't seem to be an easy solution, and yet it clearly seems to be the just solution. So I think what I would like us to think more about is about what is the right solution. I did argue nationally strongly against Scampton and other sites. There were two others that were similar, because putting large numbers of mainly young men in one place without adequate facilities, and where there are many who are mentally damaged from the experiences they've been through, to put them all in one place is a recipe for disaster. So we called for proper resources. If they were going to be there, we calculated how much resources would be needed, and of course it's huge. What fire resources have we got in Lincolnshire, should that arise? What mental health facilities? What NHS hospital facilities have we got to provide? And as been mentioned, the policing. So the huge resources that would be needed when you put a boiling kettle of people in significant need locked together is bound to cause problems. We did have people in Moreton Hall, which is in the neighbouring ward division to me. We had a number of suicides, I'm sorry to say. It is a very difficult solution, and much better to find a much more suitable one where people can live as human beings.
Thank you very much, Councillor Overton. Councillor Christopher.
Thank you, Chair. So a quick Google search makes it quite clear that Scampton falls into a rural location in Lincolnshire. That's exactly what it says on there. It is in a rural location as far as I'm concerned. And from what I've heard, all of you are against Scampton being used. So the word urban being placed in here really sort of contradicts what you're saying to us, which I just can't get my head around. I mean, these sites create a lot of problems potentially for the people of Lincolnshire, and we've got LGR coming. I mean, we've got a lot of change afoot, and really the debate on whether this is right or wrong just makes no sense to me. What we should be discussing is the fact that the district councils, due to austerity, are unable to provide housing provision in a way that would actually meet the needs of the county. We should be looking to integrate the people that are coming here, not to pen them into a location in this way, in my view, and helping them. And a lot of these people, they aren't criminals until they've committed a crime. When you have people that are coming to our country that are not given any opportunity to work, and they go out there and try and find a way of making a living, they can fall into that. They end up in Moreton Hall in a lot of cases. And who benefits? It's the big private securities companies that are running these contracts. That 87 million that Trevor mentioned earlier, who's actually taken that? Private securities companies. And whilst we're arguing like this, we're not getting to the bottom of what's actually needed. I really struggle to support this because it seems to contradict what you're telling us. Councillor Kelly earlier made it very clear that he was against Scampton, that he fought against the decision at Scampton, that he stood out there and supported the people that were demonstrating. Well, if it falls into a rural location, maybe our definition of the word urban is not the same, but I would really love some clarity from some of you on what you define the word urban to mean, because for me, I can't support this because it's contradicting your own amendment by not making that clear. So, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Corey.
Thank you, Chairman, but I think the point I was going to make will be covered by Councillor Davies in his right to reply.
Thank you very much, Councillor Corey. Councillor East.
Thank you very much, Chair. I think the word urban does cover houses of multiple occupancy as well in towns, so we're against that as well.
Okay, thank you very much. That takes us to Councillor Taylor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. There's clearly a major problem here. We need to fix that problem. And this amendment actually would make it worse. Because we do not know the background of those that have come into this country. We don't know their background. That's the major issue that we need to focus on. And the word urban is receiving some focus here today. It needs to. Because we need to unite Lincolnshire, and pitching rural against urban is not helpful. This council has a history of supporting agriculture, farming and rural areas. We need to continue to do that because the uncertainty and the spotlight on our rural communities is a major concern. That word urban must be removed. It's a regrettable word and I believe they've made a mistake. Thank you.
Thank you. And I've got point of order, Councillor Lee.
It is a point of order. We've just had a statement that urban means that you can't, they don't want HMOs either. This is as clear as mud. I think honestly, we need some clarifications because you get HMOs in urban areas. I don't understand.
Thank you, Councillor Lee. If we could move on to Councillor Oliver, please.
Thank you, Chair. I just want to clarify the position on urban. We put those 3 sites that have been mentioned in the classification of urban. So if that clarifies anything for all of you there, that is the stance that we took on that word, hence the word being in the description. The other thing I'd just like to do is disagree with Councillor Christopher. The minute they take that trip across the channel is an illegal motion. Therefore, they are a criminal at that point. So, you know, I cannot agree with that. The other thing that we are not mentioning here is the safety of our women and children. It's very clear from the situation in Epping, just what's going on in our nation, and we need to do something to stop that. So if that means housing migrants in secure bases, then so be it.
Right.
Point of order, Chair. Conduct from the members of the Labour Party. That is disgraceful.
Thank you. Thank you. Have we got any other speakers before we go to the winding the debate up? I'm afraid we've already had the one speaker per one opportunity to speak per thing. Otherwise, we'll be here all day. So it's just any fresh speakers tonight. So, Councillor Roberts, I believe you reserved your right when seconding the amendment to speak. Would you like to speak now?
Yes, Chairman. I
If
will
you could
indeed.
stand up.
Sorry. Yes. Yes. Regarding the word urban, I think many words can be confused. We obviously do not believe that Scampton or any other bases that have houses nearby and populations, therefore that's what we have classed. So, but going back to what various people have said, the country is extremely concerned about the situation, very concerned, to the point that we have people breaking into this country, and Councillor Lee said they're all vulnerable. I'm sorry, but I don't believe that at all. I'm afraid one of your MPs on Question Time said the majority of them were women and children, which is blatantly untrue. And the reason why reform is high in the polls is people realise that we are the only option forward.
Can I? Yes. Can we please make sure that we don't?
I just want to clarify. My point was actually that I feel really strongly that when people get on those boats, the women, the children, whoever, they risk their lives, and to call them criminals
Can we please?
really
Can we
offends.
please listen to Councillor Lee? Thank you very much, Councillor Roberts. If you'd like to continue. Sorry, Councillor French.
I would like to remind the Chamber how refugees from Ukraine and Hong Kong arrived in this country. They applied from outside of this country, online or however else, and they came, and I've never heard a Ukrainian rape anybody. I've never heard of a Hong Konger rape anybody. People arriving on boats arrive as criminals.
Right. Thank you very much. Councillor Kelly, do you want to make a point of order or information? Certainly.
I would just like to raise some of my points and observations in regards to what was stated over there from the Labour Party. Having worked years in Afghanistan, Iraq, more recently in Ukraine, in Mali,
Right.
in South
Sorry,
Sudan.
Councillor Kelly, it doesn't fit into the
Okay.
clarification. If you wish to have that debate, could you please speak to them outside the chamber
I'll
after this
just say
debate?
we look through things through
thank-
Western lenses and not through cultural and tribal lenses as used in those countries.
Right.
I'm more than happy to have the
Yeah,
conversation outside.
it needs to be. It's not a point of clarification. Thank you very much. If we could then go back to Councillor Roberts, if you wish to finish your session. The clock was held for you.
Thanks. And just to repeat about the fact that, yes, most of us live in Lincolnshire, I'm sure all of us live in Lincolnshire, and we will not let Scampton, unlike, I'm afraid, the Tory party, basically be used for that. And I have to ask a very important question. Does anybody know what the £48 million was spent on? Because that was money that we all pay for on our taxes. Does anybody actually know? Is it going to help with the development that hopefully we're going to get into Scampton? So that'll be something worth considering. But to finish, as I say, we are fully behind this. When we're arguing about a word and about urban, I've been Googling on this. You can take different references. The fact of the matter is, we don't believe there should be any sites opened near populations. Okay, small or not, 20 houses, 100 houses or whatever, and that's what we believe. Thank you.
Thank you very much. If I'd like to ask Councillor Davis for his right of reply to wind up the debate.
Thank you. Very quickly, in an interesting debate, and I'll take on board what Councillor Dilk said about remaining polite and not too angry. If I may, I think fundamentally this is about, I think we'd all agree, dumping on Lincolnshire. And just to pick up on some of the points, firstly, Councillor Parkinson, thank you, fellow member of the Shuffle Club. I absolutely assign myself, and your comments about Grantham in particular, so thank you for doing that. I'm conscious that it's in your patch. Councillor Kelly, courage. I mean, I think we all should pay recognition to the fact that if everybody in this chamber, I think it's fair to say Councillor Kelly has more experience of this on a very ground level than anybody else. The only thing I would say as a former serviceman, I wasn't impressed by the ironing on your hoodie at all. So we'll have a discussion on Captain's Rounds about that afterwards, sir. Thank you. But the point about courage, I think, is a good one. Councillor Dilks, I think, and Councillor Bowles actually picked up on the point. You know, he very kindly admitted that when this came round in 2023, we fought against it very hard. you can shunter at the back and you can say rude things about people all you like, but we're all aware, and I think when colleagues we don't always agree on politically are prepared to support us, I think we can take a lot from that. Councillor Christopher, I take on board some of your commentary. I think we come down to, and I've checked, just by the way, I think the way Councillor Oliver received abuse from a member of this chamber was unfortunate, unnecessary, and I think afterwards deserves a personal apology. I don't think anybody should ever be ashamed for standing up to protect the rights of women and children in England in the modern era. But I'll say no more on that. But on a more positive note, Councillor Matthews, regardless of how you spell your name, I've checked, it has taken 498 days, but finally we agree on something. I completely agree with you. We should not play party politics over a word. So I put it to you now, remove the word urban from your amendment. We'll quite happily support it. We'll take your other amendments, and we can all speak as one voice to Reform, to the Labour Party, to CCHQ, to Dubai, wherever the decision makers are sat, and we can say no, not in Lincolnshire. We will stand with you to support you. Mr. Chairman, I'm happy to take that amendment.
Thank you. Can I ask Councillor Matthews to reply to that?
So look, it's very good of you to say that. The reality is, I'm afraid, party politics will kick its ugly head up again, and the Tories will be posting in about 5 minutes' time that they won the day. The reality is, the word urban may have different connotations to each of us. The reality is, we all agree in this chamber, we don't want these 3 sites being used. We would be happy if there were any remote locations that we could securely, regardless of being in the ECHR or not, the migrants. But no, I won't be removing the word urban.
Thank you, that is clear. So we now have the amendment as circulated.
Chairman, I request a recorded vote, please.
Thank you very much, Councillor Dyer. But before we go on to that... Oh, well, I beg your pardon. Who would support the... Yeah, I beg your pardon. I do apologise. Supporting the...
Sorry, Chairman.
Recorded
How many people do you need? Have they got enough?
14. I understand. The Democratic officers, the Chief Executive, 14 have stood up, so there will be a recorded vote. So this is on the amendment as circulated during our break. So we are voting on that. So could I ask for a recorded vote and ask the Chief Executive to read the names?
Thank you very much. We are now voting on the amendment. I will read out the name of each member. Will those voting for say yes, those voting against say no, and those abstaining say abstain? Councillor Arundel. Yes. Councillor Bamford.
Yes.
Councillor Bean.
Yes.
Councillor Beecham.
Yes.
Councillor Bowles. Yes. Councillor Bridgewood.
Abstain.
Councillor Brockwood. Sorry, Councillor Brockway. Sorry, Jackie. Councillor Danny Brooks. Yes. Councillor Jimmy Brooks.
Yes.
Councillor Bunny.
Abstain.
Councillor Carey.
Yes.
Councillor Carrington.
No.
Councillor Corey.
No.
Councillor Christopher. Councillor Clark.
Abstain.
Councillor Cleaver.
No.
Councillor Clegg.
Yes.
Councillor Collier.
Yes.
Councillor Condell.
Yes.
Councillor Cook. Kellen Cook. He's gone. Councillor Cullen. Yes. Councillor Daesh.
Yes.
Councillor Davis.
No.
Councillor Dilks.
Abstain.
Councillor Dyer.
No.
Councillor East.
Yes.
Councillor Edgoose Zagoski.
Yes.
Councillor Finlay.
Yes.
Councillor French.
Yes.
Councillor Gibson.
Yes.
Councillor Grantham.
Yes.
Councillor Hassan.
Yes.
Councillor Hastings.
Yes.
Councillor Hill, OBE. Councillor Hume. Yes. Councillor Kelly.
Yes.
Councillor Kendrick.
No.
Councillor Lee. Councillor Litchfield. Councillor Locke.
Yes.
Councillor Martin.
No.
Councillor Matthews.
Yes.
Councillor McGonigal.
Yes.
Councillor Murray. Councillor Oliver? Yes. Councillor Overton, MBE?
Abstain.
Councillor Parkinson? Councillor Redfern? Yes. Councillor Reeve? Yes. Councillor Roberts? Yes. Councillor Robinson? Yes. Other Councillor Robinson? Yes. Councillor Rowe? No. Councillor Sheard?
Abstain.
Councillor Smith?
Abstain.
Councillor Sneath? Yes. Councillor Taylor? No. Councillor Vernon? No. Councillor Whitaker? Yes. Councillor Wimhurst? Yes. Councillor Woodruff? Yes. Councillor Woods? Yes. Councillor Woolley? No. Councillor Young?
You've got to have 28 to stand up to that.
42 at least.
It is, isn't it? But it's recording so that it's forcing it to record, isn't it? Vote on that straight away. Thank you very much. I can say that there were 38 votes for, 14 against, and 11 abstentions. That means that the amendment was carried and now becomes the substantive vote. We've obviously had the debate, so we'll go on to a vote on the main new substantive motion. So all those in favour?
Chairman, I request a recorded vote again, please.
Thank you.
Point of order, Chair. So this is a vote on the wording, including the amendment.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
So first of all, let's make it clear, we have a request for a recorded vote, 13 supporting, so that has failed. So we're now going to vote on the new substantive motion, which is what was circulated as in the amendment during the break. Is that clear? So could I ask all those in favour? Okay, those against? And those abstaining? Okay, that should be 39 for.
Chairman, just a point of order.
Sorry.
For purposes of the minutes, which I hope will be published more promptly than they have been previously, can it be noted, I'm pretty sure I've had permission from my leader to request this, that the Conservative votes against are recorded that way on the minutes.
Thank you very much. I just wanted clarification, actually. Until they've been formally accepted at the next meeting, there will remain notes of the meeting and not minutes, so it'll be draft minutes, which will be published. Just to confirm in my mind. Right, so that means that the vote, 39 for, 13 against, 9 abstentions.
Clarify that it's all for a recorded vote.
It has been accepted. And can I just clarify that all the Conservative members will be recorded? Okay. That, I think, brings us to the end of the proceedings today. Obviously, a long meeting. Hopefully we've had a healthy debate and everyone was able to say what they would like to do, that they wanted to say. Can I remind members that when we leave the chamber, there is post in your pigeonhole And that at 2 o'clock this afternoon, possibly slightly delayed, in the chamber here, there will be a session on local government reform from the Lincolnshire County Council perspective. Thank you very much.